Back at it again. We're gonna get started here now on the Prog portion of these videos. So, kind of just some background. The goal with this, just keep it simple. It's progging through the Savage fights for these tiers. How did PF affect your mindset on this? How did like the mechanics you went through with these? Like, how did they like? Did you like the mechanics? Did you not?
How did
Anything to
PF
get
affect your
towards the
sanity? I think you may say.
yes, yeah, exactly. And it's just all that combined, how did you, obviously it's like a level enjoyment, but how did that affect your progging through this from start to finish? High level for everybody out there, Stress and I were generally together when we did these fights. It did end up being some PF experiences too, obviously with all of it at some degree. Either we had, if not everybody, but 1 to 2, if not just Stress and I, or we were solo for some of them for our clears. So that's how it's going to work going forward. And we'll start from the beginning. I think you got it in order on there, if I'm looking at it
Yep.
correctly.
And so I will say, S is how much we enjoyed going through the fight, and so how much PF didn't harm our enjoyment of the fight is also a decent metric of it. But we'll see. Like, there could
Very
be,
fair.
if there's a fight where, like, oh, this mechanic was so fun to learn. I'm not sure how many of those there are, but that's going to factor into it too, I'd say. But yeah, so.
Man, maybe one day we'll be able to talk through this like through our static experience.
Yep,
that's
gonna be cool.
That'll be cool. But yeah, Black Cat overall for me, I think as far as the fight goes, clear to week 1, it's a good intro fight, especially when starting off the whole expansion. So it's not overly difficult, to be very clear.
Mm-hmm.
It's not any level, I don't think of it necessarily a challenge. There's definitely not a DPS check in this fight. Oh my god. So I just think it's A. Like, it's probably like lower
I was
A.
already hovering there, yep. I had it on A.
And I don't think it's like, oh my god, this prog's so crazy. I just can't believe I want to do it again and again. I want to wipe my mind and I want to redo it.
This metric is not which fight is your favorite. It's which ones were good and bad to prog through, and this was definitely one that was just perfectly fine. There wasn't any walls that got stuck that PF got stuck on, really. Raining Cats a little bit. Raining Cats at the end of the mechanic, which even like week 3 we were already skipping, I feel like. But everything else, like, it wasn't bad, and learning how, at least for me, I forget what it's actually called, but it's one part of her copycat, whatever, where she either moves left or right, and then cleaves left or right, and then you have to think, okay, left cleaved her left, okay, and then she's copying a cat on this marker, which means that cat will move relatively this way and cleave this way. That was fun. I actually really enjoyed doing that. And so, like, making that click and memorizing it and being the one that would type it in the chat to make sure other people didn't mess up and stuff like that, that was fun. And so, just all around, a great fight to prog through. If you are getting into Savage raiding, do that fight. It is fun. Hector just made a new guide on how to do that fight, actually, so you can follow that too.
That was so random, like he's in the middle of like needing to send out the M12S guys, like part 1, part 2. It's like, oh yeah, let's just talk crash out about Black Cat or something in the middle of it.
I would love to know the lore on that video creation.
Yes! There's got to be somewhere we just haven't seen it. But anyway, I think it's pretty much said and done. I think we're good on that fight. It is what it is. I guess, well, one thing I'll say, obviously along with the music, it's pretty cool to go through that setting. Feels good. But I did like the like she punches you in the air and like the feel, like you change how the field gets like broken up in those square tiles you're in.
Fun to learn.
Now, don't get me wrong, like you're going to just like do the same thing every time generally, especially like with PF strats. But I would say that would be like a cooler one to do in the static, because you can do funny things that you can like talk through in a Discord and just be like, yeah, I'm actually going to land here instead of like the normal thing to like keep uptime and stuff. But that's just something I thought would be kind of cool to experience. Now,
next up is Honeybee, and so I haven't ironed out how our rating's going to go here, because, of course, in our music video, nothing was below a B. So it was easy to just, alright, between S, A, or B. Honeybee, I'm going to put it in B for now, but I might demote it to C if enough if we talk enough about other fights and like, you know what, okay, let's move Honeybee down to C.
Okay.
It was surprisingly brutal to prog through.
Yeah.
Just it's a very simple fight, but my god, did it mess PF up. And not only that, it actually had the hardest DPS check of the first 4 fights by a significant margin. If she got 2 stacks, odds are, because she has a unique mechanic where if a player messes up and gets too many hearts, they will give Honeybee a stack, and that stack gives her 1% health. If she got to 2% health, just to be fair, it is literally doable with good DPS. But if that was the case, odds are they were not doing good DPS either, and so if you saw 2 stacks, you were not clearing for the most part. 1 stack, it was iffy. Not because it's an impossible DPS check, but because someone not doing the best DPS and also a stack going off, that even 1 stack sometimes was enough, especially week 1. It was a brutal fight. So, like, it's hilarious. It's like the concept of it. But Mario Kart would wipe so often. It was crazy. Even though, so okay, there's a lot of reasons why it caused so many wipes. People didn't understand what you were supposed to do with Mario Kart. They just thought stack, and then because in other Mario Karts you stack, and then when the first thing snapshots, you move out of it, and then the next thing snapshots, you move out of it. No, like you want to because it would communicate that one of the bees was aiming way before it went off. So it would show the aiming, and then like 7 seconds later it would go off. And so people would move right when the first bat appeared, and that would completely mess up the whole idea of the Mario Kart. If you do Mario Kart correctly, one bat is now aiming at the party, you stay, and then a second later, the second bat gets snapshotted on that same spot. You stay, and then a third bat gets snapshotted on that same spot. You stay, but now you gotta be ready to move because you have about 3 seconds to move out. Okay, when the 4th one starts the snapshot, immediately move out. You still have like 2 seconds. Once you get the timing down, it's easy. And then just like that, you have deleted 4 of the bees running across the screen. And if you do that correctly, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna have no issues at all whatsoever on Mario Kart. Here's the thing, though. The first bee aims, and 5 people just run off. And they're just like, oh. And so at that point, it just becomes a free-for-all immediately. Week 1, basically every Mario Kart was the first line bait, everyone leaves, and then it's just fucked. Because everyone leaves, and now there's 7 lines that get crisscrossed everywhere. Versus 4 lines getting straight up deleted, and then assuming everyone's, competent, the next, 2 lines get semi-deleted, and then the last 2 are kind of free-for-alls, but you have a huge amount of space at that point to avoid them. So it's very easy when done right, but oh my god, PF could not do that mechanic at all whatsoever. It was hilarious. That was the highlight of progging that fight, for sure. But then there was
probably also the hardest mechanic in that fight. I mean, besides third beat, is it third beat where you go onto the towers? That's
B3.
definitely probably it because
B3 was the defamations with the towers. Yeah,
I was just gonna say because all that is that one you're referring to is just a normal mechanic. That is not any different than the normal mechanic. That is all that is, and it is for some reason. People just forgot a mechanic with no alteration, and it's just baffling to me.
And so I will say B3 is harder. B3 is a harder mechanic. I completely agree. And that also tripped people up, though it was a little bit more understandable because it was just a harder mechanic. A few things were a little confusing because people did different things. Some people said, always go to your clock position no matter what whatsoever, and other people say, always go to your color cardinal. I remember week 1, people fluctuated between clock position and color cardinal, and that messed people up. What I always just did was use eyes. Go to my clock position, which was always south, and use eyes. If someone is going weird, adjust for them, and you could save the pull. But people didn't always do that, and there are tons of wipes there. To this day. Nothing compared to Mario Kart, but still, that was a standard wall, at least. But then the terrible part is after Rotten Heart, the number of times we cleanly saw through Beat 3 and then
Everything
had a
almost.
completely pointless wipe to Rotten Heart because it's such an easy mechanic. You just have to... The whole mechanic is, look at your debuff. When it says 6, stand in the middle. If your debuff is gone, go back to your spot. And that's it. That's the entire mechanic. 6,
Never
center,
before seen done.
go back. The number of wipes to that was crazy. I would say Mario Kart was, of course, the most, and here's the thing, Mario Kart is earlier on in the fight, so there's more pulls that are going to see Mario Kart. There's less pulls that are even going to see Rotten Heart, so it's important to keep that in mind. So adjusting for all that, I think Rotten Heart was a very massive amount of wipes for no reason. Absolutely no reason. I could not believe my eyes every time we had a wipe to it. It's just, it is such a simple, it's a borderline normal mode mechanic. The only exception to it is normal mode doesn't really have mechanics that wipe the entire party if you do it wrong. It's just, what it's asking of you is normal mode. When it says 6, stand in the middle. That's it. That is all that is asked of you for that whole mechanic. Wipe. It was crazy. And so that, combined with tight DPS check, it had the hardest DPS check of the first tier by far, not even close. And so Mario Kart, Beat 3, and Rotten Heart was just especially brutal and debilitating because there was zero reason for there being a wipe there. It was just inexplicable. People just shut their brain out, they forgot the mechanic existed, and you wiped. And it was just terrible. So that's why I might bring it down to C, because it was that bad. The Rotten Heart wipes were that bad, honestly. But the Mario Karts, the people just never doing Mario Karts right was frustrating. But that's in a standard PF way. The Rotten Heart was, how? How are you doing this wrong? Why do you want to go back to the start of the fight so badly? I don't get it. What is wrong with you? Levels of bad. And so it deserves to be in C. I'm leaving it in B for now, but if you wanted to say something, I will move it to C in a heartbeat. So.
A heartbeat. Get it? Yep. I think it's B. I think it's fine. Like, Prog-wise, like, as far as my, like, obviously we talked about it, like, favorite fight, I would definitely put it higher, but that Prog piece for it, I mean, you said everything I was going to say. There's not much left. It's very frustrating when you get through, especially when you get through, like, all the beats, all the Mario Kart bullshit, like, all the things that you're like, okay, we're good. Oh, I guess we're not now. Like, we missed the DPS check because we have 2 people dead because you couldn't walk forward. Like, at that point, it also kills you, right? Because then it doesn't, like, blow up and, like,
yeah, so there's 2 ways. There's one, if you pop it on, like, when it's on... If you walk to the middle on when it's 4 or 3 or something like that, it's gonna clip the raid wide by, like, a second. So it's gonna wipe because of the raid wide. And then also, if you mess it up the other way, where you just don't walk in the middle at all, you're going to wipe to the DPS check, because it was actually a tight DPS check. So yeah, it's both ways.
I think it's pretty much it. I think we're good with this. As far as, like, a Prog goes, like, if it was I think this is definitely going to be benefiting people that did it with a static. Because, like, you can... Well, it was one fight, you could still funnel gear a little bit better, and that would help with your DPS check. 1, people are probably less incompetent. 2, it probably, in general, would, at least you had a consistent player base to play with, and it's not like you have to roll the dice on who you're getting.
And you could actually tell people how to do Mario Kart correctly, because PF, no one ever told PF how to do it correctly. It's like, guys, you're supposed to bait more bad onto the bad, bait bad onto the bad, bait bad onto the bad. And then when people run off, it just makes it so, oh, this person starts running early, so the next B snapshots, they run early, the next B snapshot, and so you have, like, a wall of lines going across the arena at that point. It's ridiculous.
Yep, pretty much. Now, on to a Brute Bomber. First of all, shout out to Brute Bomber. It's our first iteration of, like, funny voice line we repeated over and over, which is it's Sidar Sidious now that happened on there. Oh man, this made it, like, for me, it already, like, if there was a letter I initially felt with it, I just, like, goofing around and saying that with, like, the first one, because then you'll see with M4 I'll bring up in a minute. But, like, having that through this fight just made it easier. Okay, I don't
Oh,
think this
actually, I
fight.
do want to do a quick aside because you're right. The
Sure.
voice acting in Honeybee, we didn't address it. When she says all her bee lines, like "Who's my little bee?" and then we also enjoy
Oh yeah.
bee. That was
Yeah,
fun
that's
too.
good.
But yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
The
Okay,
most
I guess this
iconic
is, like,
one
the
was
second one.
the most iconic one. That was like little just one-offs. Whereas the Brute Bomber one, we would reference in basically anything, everything we would do.
Yeah.
So
I think everything. Yeah, no, because I think everything we just do now in the group, like I think you and I and maybe Light, if he was around when that happened, are the only people that understand why we're going no, just randomly throughout everything. Oh, shout out to that.
whenever
So
we're in a different fight and another character says no, it will we'll both immediately think of no,
yeah.
no. Yeah.
Also,
so,
like that he like kicks the referee.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
cute.
man. Why? I wish they would have incorporated him more into these fights because they really did it with the first tier. You know, like outside just the knockout scene at the end of it. It's just like I really wanted them to incorporate more. Like they did so well with him. Like he's just like this asshole that knocks out the cutest like referee that's ever existed, and now it's just like you just never really see him again. But anyway, okay. So,
Okay.
well, yeah, he's a little robot, you know. But all right, so now that we're on to this high level, I don't think there are two main choke points in this. There's Fuse Field and then the
Chain
the
2.
Deathmatch 2. Chain
Yeah.
Deathmatch, whatever 2. Um, overall, there's nothing really too
Yeah, I will
difficult
say-
with this fight.
Nothing even remotely comes close to Honeybee as far as
Yeah.
painful to prog. So, excuse me, there were a few fuse fields where it was brutal getting through fuse field at first because some of the wipes were inconceivable, where literally the person has. So there were quite a few wipes where how it works with fuse field is there's 8 fuses that all need to be popped by each a unique player, and you can't pop them all at once. You need to do one at a time. 1, wait a few seconds. 2, wait a few seconds. 3. The 8th person, though, they don't need to think, because if they just stand near the end of their fuse, the fuse will creep towards them and automatically pop at the end, and there's no timing needed for it, because it's just if someone else messed up their pop, like the 7th person messed up their pop, and there's not enough time to pop the 8th one, then it doesn't matter. So there's nothing to think about with the 8th one. You pop it at the last second, no matter what. That's all you have to do. And so you can pre-plant on your fuse as close to the boss while still being on your fuse, and you're good. The number of wipes that happened, there were at least 3 or 4, where the 8th person messed up their pop because they were not standing on their fuse, was crazy. I do not understand how that happened, but we talked about it while it was happening. It was like, wait, how did he mess that up? He literally needed to plant 40 seconds in advance, and he was done. And it's not like
The worst part of that mechanic is just like your initial adjust for wherever he was ever.
That's the tough part.
But like saying that's tough is a stretch. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
it's
people
the
just
relative tough part.
overcomplicated that. Yeah. But sorry, go ahead.
And also, you do have to time your pops. So, like, the second you have to be watching the debuff, and you want to move up into your flame right as the debuff goes away to get them going as fast as possible, because you are on a decently tight timer. But the 8th person, no thoughts are needed. You just stand, plant in the same spot every time, literally 40 seconds in advance. Because it's like every 5 seconds is a pop, so it is 40 seconds in advance is when you plant. And the number of times I would see the person next to their fuse and I'd say, like, no, what are you doing? You can pre-plant. You're 8. You can pre-plant. Pop. I'm like, how? How did you just mess that up? You had the easiest job. That is just worth noting because that was so egregious. It happened at least 3 times, and it's just crazy to me. But yeah, nothing close to Honeybee, because Rotten Heart, it's at the very end. It's on the level of idiotic as Rotten Heart, but it's actually more idiotic than Rotten Heart. But it only happened 3 times, whereas Rotten Heart, oh my god, there were so many wipes on Rotten Heart. It's crazy.
At least with like Deathmatch 2, at least with that, I can get why that's confusing for people.
There's a
because
lot of information you gotta process all at once.
Yep. You got to know where to stand, and then you also have to know who to get hit by and where positioning to. So it's like threefold. And at least that I get why, but that still doesn't like cause a wipe of the raid. You know what I mean? Like we can still like have 1 to 2 deaths there, and if you're relatively clean through there, you can still clear.
Yeah. Oh, and
But
another thing to
Honeybee,
note. Oh yeah, yeah. Honeybee was just brutal with the
yeah,
DPS check. But another thing about Chain Deathmatch that made it tough is 75% of the time your safe spot was on a cardinal. If you went to just the cardinal, because in the first Chain Deathmatch you just dodge to the correct cardinal and you're good. In Chain Deathmatch 2, if you just dodge to your cardinal, there's a 75% chance you're good, because he aims a safe cone at one of the 4 cardinals, and in this mechanic's weird is you actually need to get hit by his poison mist, if you remember that mechanic.
yep. That's
And
the other
so
half you getting hit by.
he has a 75% chance of having your cardinal be in his poison cone. So 75% of the time you do an easy dodge, and so every now and then you gotta, oh shit, I gotta do the more difficult diagonal dodge. And so that definitely contributed to wipes. People had done the easy version so many times and hadn't gotten the bad pattern, and so they were just not ready for it. So it definitely makes sense why there were so many wipes there. It was not a free mechanic inherently, and then that whole 25% chance of needing to do unique movement really threw people off. Yeah.
I would say overall this was an A for me.
Yeah, I put it in A. I
Like-
put it under Black Cat because Black Cat literally had no memes at all whatsoever. And
Oh, no, that's not true. It
Raining
did.
Cats did.
Well, yeah, but hear me out. It's they changed at some point in time in that fight. You
the
remember,
strat
like,
changed. Yeah, at first it was Cardinals are supports and DPS are inner cards, and then they swapped to everything is on Cardinals and supports replace DPS. Yeah, I remember that.
And so yes, and there's also another piece, which is, what's the mechanic where she like throws out the cleaves and the square, like the tiles break, and you have to like stand on one of them. Like if one gets hit twice, you move. Well, you remember as a tank specifically, like you would want to jump to the other side.
Yes.
Yes.
And there was like a patch that added a wall, and then it got removed, I think. But yeah, it was really weird.
I don't know, but I was just like crash out. Now this is post progress, of course, but like I would. Well, no, because it happened during it. No, yeah.
No,
So
I don't think it
like,
did actually, because I feel like we
you're
talked
right.
about how you used to jump across that diagonal gap, but then
because you want to get like your positionals for your melee.
Yeah, you would jump across the gap like the first few times without any issue. We never really addressed it, and then on re-clears, you started jumping, and you would kind of jump and then just go straight down instead of jumping across. And it was pretty consistent because there was like some sort of invisible wall on the center coordinate. It was really weird.
You were all right, but anyway, that's like an honorable shout out of a meme from there. Like it didn't affect Prog, but yeah, like I thought this was more fun because it felt like, at least I think the pin here was, it's one, not as difficult as Honeybee, so PF was easier. 2, it also didn't have like, okay, well we've got 3 heart like buffs on her now, so we have to leave. Like we just reset. It's bad. And it was, I remember we got so aggravated once, we just got 1 heart, we were out. It was just like, why are we doing this still? It makes no sense. But anyway, I like where it's at. And now on to Wicked Thunder. I want to start this off with, first of all, I think I'm going to start, obviously there's like P1, P2-ish a little bit, but just overall with this fight, I think for me, this is probably S tier for Prog. It was definitely fun. Yeah.
Okay.
Like Prog,
well, because there's a big thing that hurts so.
Yes, and I'll get to that. I got you. Now, with this, like P1 was so cool to see. It was just fun. Nothing was super challenging besides the very like first mechanic.
Yes, I will say it's not talked about enough. Right? Witch Hunt. It's not talked about enough how difficult a mechanic Witch Hunt was. If Witch Hunt was at the end of the fight, it would double or triple everyone's Prog time. 100%. It would.
Yep.
There would be so many wipes to Witch Hunt. If they put that at the end of the fight, it would be over. It would be over. Yep. It's on another level of difficulty compared to Sunrise. So it's. I always think about that, how it's not addressed enough. how much Witch Hunt requires of you to do it correctly. Yeah.
I agree. Like when you're doing this, the thing is like it's not just like an in and out; it's in out baiting as
Yeah.
well on top of it.
In,
And it
out,
just
and
blew
where are you
people's
in
minds.
the in and where are you in the out?
Yep.
Where are
It's
you out
like
the in
visually,
and where are you in the out?
yeah. And then like you could do a pattern with it in your head, like eventually you got
Yeah.
there, like on your weakness, it was good. But man, that initial prog with it, it's like, oh my god.
Witch Hunt prog. Which was fun. It was fun to prog it, honestly.
Now, I agree. Like Electrope was really fun to do so. I personally got a little frustrated with Electrope. I remember like you were a little ahead of me on that prog, and I was like, man, I'm just not understanding this. I should just like back out of this PF. And you're like, no, you're literally at the prog point of the PF. And Electrope was cool. And once again, everything about these mechanics feel cool to do.
Yeah.
Witch Hunt, you're in, out, how far in, how far out of the in, out. Electrope, you have to like go to your specific squares when you're out and in. You could easily just
Counting
have to
how
be
many
like,
times it hits.
yeah, like that memorization follow-up is one of the best memorizations. And I hate mechanics where you have to remember for long periods of time because they're never really fun. They're just like the sake of it being hard is you have to wait like 3 minutes and then redo what it is, right? This one felt fun because it was memorization, what you got hit by, and then you immediately implement what that is. That's fun to me. That I enjoyed a lot. I think when this goes through it, like, that's a lot of P1 is the fun of each piece you do. Not memorization, but, like, it's fun to do each one. And then the cannons.
Yep, Ion
Honorable
Cannon's a
shout
great
out,
mechanic.
second-
Love that mechanic. And
Second meme of the
we brought
thing.
it back too. Oh
Yep.
yeah, the
Second-
voice acting. Yeah.
Yep. Second shout out to, well, I guess third at this point, but like the meme of like, oh, that's a massive cannon. Man, I love these one-liners that he does. Matem, is that right?
Yep.
I love
great.
that one-liners like these dick jokes that they continue on through the rest of these are just so good, and they're stupid, but they're funny. And so anyway, as you go through that like P1, and I'll let you go through like through P2, but that transition up through P1, it doesn't feel anything harder, and I mean this in a positive way.
It was pretty harmless to
Besides-
prog.
Yeah, I feel like it's like Witch Hunt. Sorry, I can't. Witch Hour, right? It's Witch Hour.
Something like
Um,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
All the
Like-
count how many times the lightning hit the thing mechanics. Yeah, those are all good.
Yep. Those, every single one of those up to that point, almost, they kind of feel like the linchpin mechanic in an extreme, if that makes sense. Like, it wasn't too difficult to do any of them, but they all felt like that level, which makes it kind of like a savagey thing.
Yeah,
level. Like,
multiple big deal mechanics in a row, but they're
Yep.
not super hard either. Except Witch Hunt.
Yep.
Witch Hunt does not get enough recognition of how difficult that is.
yeah. Now, I'll let you take over P2 because this is where like the real fun begins with the fight, as far as like difficulty-ish goes. Definitely spectacle.
Yes, spectacle, yes, but progging was pretty simple in P2.
Yep.
There were a few memes of people wanting to do melee LB3, but that didn't come till later.
Yeah, it wasn't solidified to do that until definitely during reclears.
But so I'll start by saying up till the start of P2, like there were no major memes PF-wise getting stuck on anything. Just enjoyable mechanics, enjoyable to solve. I remember one point, like when I was looking up how to do the witching hour, I forget exactly what it's called, but where she shoots the players with electricity and you have to count if you got hit 1 or 2 times, and if you have a long debuff, that's worth 1. I remember when I was first learning it, they're like, if you have long debuff, that's worth 1. If a short debuff, you start at 0, and then you count up like, oh, okay. And then like realizing as you go through, like, oh, because you have to have a long cooldown, the stacker spread later on the mechanic counts as a lightning blast, so you're preemptively incrementing yourself because you know you're going to take a lightning blast before your debuff expires. There was some fun progging elements of that. Being overwhelmed by Ion Cannon at first, and then that diagram came out that showed you exactly where to stand to do it correctly. You're like, oh wow, that is so simple. And then it kind of got brought back very recently with Idyllic Dreams. That was a cool callback too, but that didn't come till later, of course. All in all, I have literally nothing bad to say about P1 at all whatsoever, I'm pretty sure. As far as progging it, so it is definitely up there already. I currently have it sitting in S tier, by the way, because I was kind of waving it around.
I think it's fair to leave it there,
so
even after the next thing we're trying to
first
talk about.
phase, really fun and nothing to complain about. So now let's get to second phase. Second phase, also almost nothing to complain about. The different, like, Midnight Sabbath. There's something before that Sabbath, I think. Maybe, I'm not totally sure.
And I know this is like fight design 101, but a lot of P2 was just don't stand in an incoming bad. Was like the majority of it. But it's fast. Like you have to like go through here, then here, then here. As a tank, you probably have the most responsibility, for sure. But I played through it as a DPS, and man, going through that again, it is not that big of a deal to just do stuff in that fight. Like, you're just not really hanging out. And another thing with P2 in this whole fight, and every single fight of the first tier minus Honeybee, at least PF-wise, there's not a DPS check in this fight.
Though I did wipe to enrage multiple times in PF. This was before I used any means to see the DPS, but I really wish I could go back and see what those parties were looking like, because oh my god, their DPS is so bad. It was crazy.
Well,
honestly.
you might be able to in Tombstone, because someone might have been progging or like parsing through that. So that would be fun to like look back on. But as you go through that, like another thing is that it's not necessarily like you can just die a million times to get through it, but like it's if you go through that fight and you have minimal deaths, like 2-3 max, like you're gonna clear that fight. Like you will get through it and you're okay. It's not really an issue. The one thing that is bad about that though is just Sunrise just does that problem for you though. And like the callback with Idyllic, there's a callback with this from M11, and like the split arena that you do, it's like you just need to stand on the side. And if anybody watches this now that's still like doing like progging that fight, or like watches this and like you're re-cleared like us, like you don't need to worry about inner outer corners. Like you don't need to do that. If you take the Sunrise strat of specifically the uptime version, where you go like you have your square, you don't stand in the middle, but you're like in the middle between the middle of the marker and the line of this, and you're like right there, you're safe every time, like away from the line that's like the white line. And people don't realize that to this day. Like they hard focus inner outer marker, and you just need to do that. I do that today where I'm just in that middle piece I mentioned. Never be hit. Never hit. I never care if it's inner outer marker. And I've told that to people in PF, and like, oh shit, really? And I said, yes, just do it. And they don't care. You don't have to care. It doesn't matter.
Yep. I'm surprised that never got talked about more. It's like some secret between the people that we did clears with at this point. Yeah, Sunrise, PF cannot do Sunrise. It was just crazy, honestly. Just that you just hold your breath and just hope they do it right. And I found that Uptime Sunrise was actually worse. So I will say Uptime Sunrise is a better mechanic overall, but PF could not do Uptime Sunrise. My first clear was, I finally joined a party that did not do Uptime Sunrise, and we cleared finally. But that being said, even if you see through Sunrise, I saw a lot of wipes to the Enrage sequence after. A very considerable amount of wipes to the the raid wides into partner stack in those 4 little spots. The number of wipes I saw to that was immense, honestly. I saw at least 5 or 6 wipes to that before I cleared.
You know what that reminds me of? That's like the sword dance ability from M11.
Oh, you're right.
Like,
it is the same Dance of Domination. Yeah, it is literally the same animation on the floor. You're totally right. It's just different
I never
pattern.
thought about that. Yeah,
but it's the same idea.
Anyway, minus Sunrise. Actually, I don't think I'm gonna put this in this, because you're right. That killed me, because I remember I did the same thing for my clear. Now everyone was hard focused on just doing normal whatever, but I know this doesn't count, but it was still annoying to kind of go through. Excuse me. But especially when I re-cleared, I remember that I was setting like a 5 wipes or out limit, and then I said we'll try uptime, but if we wipe, we go back to regular. And we would do that same thing. This is more of a shout out to what you're saying, but we did the same freaking thing where it was uptime. Okay, we messed it up. We're still keeping this limit. We're going back to normal. First shot, no problem.
Yep.
It just, I don't get why people, I don't understand why you can't get one or the other, but people as an umbrella got normal normal, not uptime. And I don't understand why, but that's just how it was. I don't know. I can't tell you. It didn't matter to me, but people couldn't get it. So.
Yeah. Oh, I had a hilarious PF moment. One of the most memorable PF moments ever was, so basically in Sunrise, usually it goes blue, yellow alternates, but you can get a pattern where it's blue, yellow. And so, depending on what debuff you get, if you get blue, yellow, and it's like, one, so I played it on tank, one support baits the blue gun, one support baits the yellow gun, and so the main thing went to the blue gun. I had to go all the way around to the yellow gun, which is kind of abnormal. And so there were people in PF that didn't understand that was my correct spot, and they're like, hey, a support should never be on the east side of the arena there. You clearly messed up. What's going on here? You clearly have no idea what the mechanic is. Like, oh no, it was 2 colors there. In the pattern where it's 2 colors, the support has to go to that specific spot. You're like, no, you clearly did it wrong. I don't know what's going on here. You're clearly prog lying. Like, nope, it's the support was supposed to go there. And then other people in chat like, yeah, you can. It was a rare pattern, but you can get that. The craziest back and forth where a guy and his friend were just blistering, arguing. I would assume veins bulging out of their face because they started typing in all caps, metaphorically screaming about how I was definitely wrong, and in doing so, they kept bringing up arguments, and so one of them was arguing one thing about, like, saying, no, my friend's clearly right because he was yellow and he was supposed to stand here, and you were there and he was supposed to stand there. And then the guy that initially argued started saying, well, because I was blue, I was supposed to stand there. And so they themselves didn't realize they were so wrong that one person was saying, well, my friend was clearly blue, so he's right. And then the friend was saying, well, I was clearly yellow, so I'm right. And so they were not making any sense. And the other people like, I am lost for words. I think I'm going to go. And the PF fell apart. That was just hilarious. I sent the screenshot of the conversation. It was a long time ago. You might have forgotten about it, but that's my most crazy. Memorable experience from Wicked Thunder. But I would put it in high A because of Sunrise. It would be S, but then Sunrise knocks it down to high A.
No, I agree.
It's a lot more fun to prog than Black Cat, but again, Black Cat did not have a glaring issue, and that Sunrise was a hyper glaring issue. Nothing compared to Honeybee, of course, and nothing compared to Brute Bomber.
So I think overall what I'm looking at now is like the overall tier, and I think I give it A for like this tier, like just the first one, good solid A.
Yep.
For the tier.
I'd say so.
All right. Cruiserweight. Yep. On it. So since this is your favorite song, I'll let you start us off. So where are you at with this one?
Well, I'm trying to think. What was the major? So here's the thing. Literally week 2. No, we're skipping the prog part already. Sorry about that. But week 2, I re-cleared with 6 deaths. So a huge thing with this fight is how non-existent, two layers, how non-existent the DPS check is, and how recoverable people dying are. You can have people die on most mechanics and res them and be fine. There's a few exceptions to that, but for the most part, that's true. And so there was basically any mechanic that would have been painful if they modified it to make it so this person dying guarantees a wipe, basically, which is the case in other fights. It would have made the fight much more painful, but it was almost every mechanic was completely painless, and if someone died, it was an individual responsibility mechanic. They'll get raised, they're going to deal less DPS, but it doesn't matter because the DPS check is so lenient that you can have so many deaths and be fine. So PF-wise, PF was basically incapable of making my experience bad for the fight, for the most part.
Okay.
And in addition, there was a very unique thing with taking that fight, is there was a decent amount of mechanic. It's a unique fight in which you do not need your invuln for anything in the fight. So that enabled a few moments where you could save the pull by invulning, which was very satisfying. And so in reclears, that doesn't really happen. But specifically for progging, that would happen, and you could save the pull by invulning to bait a Protean. So you already baited a Protean, whatever, and then later on the DPS is supposed to, but that DPS is dead, and so I go, okay, which one was he? Okay, he's gonna be here, invuln, stand there, pull save. Very satisfying to do that, and so that plus the prog in the fight, it's a genuinely fun fight. It's just a great fight, experiencing all the music stuff for the first time. Great time progging it. PF didn't make it bad. Unique situations where the tank, which I was playing, could save it. It's an easy S for me, and I just put it in.
I don't. So this is the first time where like doing one word strategy change that aggravated the effort of MPS. PF.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I didn't see that many wipes to it, so that's why it didn't affect me much. I saw a very small amount of wipes to it.
Well, specifically as well, like it affected like PF made me do it. So anyway, the floor basically it's you just have to find
funky
where,
floor,
like,
which is hilarious. It's the hardest mechanic to fight, but it's right at the start. It's not a hard mechanic. It's nothing like Witch Hunt, but again, the first mechanic is 100% the hardest mechanic to fight.
Yep. When you go through it, it's like you have to you have to find in your section if where you're standing is bad or not. It means you have to go to the top of the floor and the bottom of the floor. As the tank or melee, it's the same thing, right? You're on this, either one. The problem was I clarified a lot of times because I said, okay, I'm going to stay up here, and no matter what, I'm just dodging around these squares to make sure that I don't get hit. And PF, no matter what, said, yeah, that's right, man. You got it. Just do it. I'm like, okay, I did it, and I either died from getting shot up in the air, or two, I got a damage down from it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is
PF
not right.
Hadn't ironed out if the melees are, if melee 1, main tank plus melee 1 is always north, and main tank and off tank plus melee 2 is always south, or main tank plus melee 1 is always west, and off tank plus melee 2 is always east. That just hadn't been ironed out yet, and people had no understanding of how it worked. But here's why it didn't affect me. A, I literally didn't get screwed over as much as you did, and B, even if a death occurred, because the DPS check is so lenient and because there's so much individual parts of the mechanic, I would see someone die and be like, all right, he died, okay, whatever, moving on. Oh, we still cleared. So as far as my enjoyability of the fight, it didn't affect it at all, and then I have all those other things as to why I enjoyed it.
And the other part of it though too is just the simple fact of, for me specifically, is I'm up top, and if I need to adjust for the floor moving, being incorrect at the end when you actually have to land on your spot, because you have to land on a spotlight that's not going to end up landing on a bad square. That's the goal. And if you started wrong, you have to adjust north or south. And so that was that. So yes, you're right about the melee thing. That was one. But the main one for me was just the adjustment piece, because I had to come to you and I was like, I don't understand what this one thing is that's not just landing.
And there was so much confusion that Hector made a video saying, guys, just do this, my god. Which is hilarious. Yes. And I was so thankful he made that, because it just ended the conversation. A lot of people complain about Hector for other things, but oh my god, when people cannot decide on a way to do a mechanic and both sides are literally equal. They're the same solve, just rotated differently, oh my god, and then Hector declares one of them. Thank god I do not have to have this discussion anymore. It's so nice when Hector does that. Yep. Thank you, Hector.
So for Prog, not saying the fight, because the fight overall is going to be higher for me, but it was a B. It was B. After that, it was smooth sailing, You
Oh,
know?
really? That affected it that much? It's even
Yes, it was awful.
really
I
okay.
didn't want to do the tier. I didn't want to do the tier. I didn't want to do it. I was like,
Wow.
I'm so tired of it. Now, I do want to call out one thing because there's a difference between like the difficulty of these. So I was checking while you were speaking about my prog times for just to like show the difficulty because I think tier 1 lightweight and it should be this way to be fair. Like I think each tier gets harder each time
Mhm.
in this raid tier. Lightweight, cruiserweight, heavyweight. But there's a big gap in overall difficulty between like to me in lightweight to cruiserweight. For example, from cruiserweight or sorry, lightweight, Black Cat, my prog time to get my clear was 41 minutes. That's how
That's
fast it was for
nice.
me. And that's, maybe there were some people that didn't have it logging or whatever, so it could have been longer. Let's say an hour, just to be on the safe bet, right? Honeybee Lovely was 9.9 hours of my longest, and
Yep.
M4 was a 4.9. Like those are those differences. And if I go to cruiserweight, like number 1, it's still low. Like don't get me wrong, it didn't take me years to get through, but it should have been shorter. It was 6.2 hours to prog that fight. Like that's how like annoying that was for me. And just to go into Sugar Riot, for example, like that one deservedly was longer because of ads phase, and that was at 11 hours. So like you're already seeing the differences in like difficulty that it's going to be for these, and it's just like, oh, it was frustrating. Like that's to explain like my difficulty with Dancing Green. Like that was it. That added like 3 hours of prog time for me, and it was yeah, yeah. That's it. We're good. Sugar Riot. Let's move on.
Okay, so Sugar Riot's a
Uh,
unique one where there was a catastrophically massive wall, but this is
uh-huh.
the one case where I actually enjoyed it. It was actually fun to be stuck on ads. The
I
PF
agree.
had so many issues, so it defies all logic because I'm gonna bring up this complaint multiple times in the future of progging was miserable because there were so many different strats. Strats weren't quite there yet. PF didn't grasp the strats. Yada yada yada. And all of these apply to Sugar Riot, but I still really enjoy. I was enjoying my time the whole time, with a little bit of an exception in a few cases where it's like, come on, how the fuck did you mess that up? Which I'll get into. But I would put this at the very top. So I already had Dancing Greed in S tier. I can move that at some point if you would like. But I put Sugar Ray at the very top to prog through.
Okay.
And so,
I
yeah.
I would say it's at least S tier for me, for sure. I don't know if it's as we go through this, I'll probably learn a little more, or remember more specifically. But it's definitely S tier because we both tanked that one, and especially as the tank and moving the ads, that's the fun part. Especially
Yeah.
when Cleave Maxing came out as like
Exactly.
Hector's mini guide, like specific, like we saw it on the
Free tools, yeah.
sheet, yeah, that came out beforehand. But that was still like when people learned that made that even more fun because like as you progress, like we switched.
Yeah,
to
we were
it
already getting it
mid-progression.
down, and then we were learning one strat that wasn't as good, but it was still kind of working. And then Clevex came, and we're like, oh my god, this feels so much better. This is such an upgrade. And I was already enjoying non-Cleave Max, and then Cleave Max made it even more fun.
Yep,
Yeah, it
I
was
agree.
all around great. The desert. First, the desert was overwhelming, and then the strat where you stand all the way north and just
on the
dodge left
wall.
and right. That was, again, it was fun to learn it a little bit at first, and then then like a cathartic moment when we learned the stay north strat. Also really really good.
Yeah, because like once again, as especially, I think this fight is the most enjoyable as the tank. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Because like also moving the boss between the ads, the desert, like the movement this fight does
bridge
is
phase.
amazing. Oh, the
Yes.
bridge phase too. Oh my
Yes.
god.
Yeah,
Yeah.
learning every part of it was really, really clever. So, yeah, like we already said with Desert, there are quite a few moments where it was very satisfying to iron out your uptime, especially if you were the tank that got Defamation in Desert Phase. Learning the exact point to get your last GCD, move out, Defamation snapshots, gap close in was very satisfying to learn
Oh yeah.
over time. Let's see what else. The Tank Buster. That Tank Buster was so fun. You have to look at your color and stand closer or further away. like not a lot of headaches happened around there, I'd say. Oh, another little
This is a good
optimization.
example of being a longer prog fight that, once again, it's an exception, not the rule, but it made it more fun. Like,
Yeah.
it was fun just to do it.
So many little things to learn, like when so she makes a sinkhole, there's a point where the sinkhole animation is still happening, but you can just straight up walk on it with no consequences. Learning the
Yeah.
timing of that to optimize for damage, because she teleports to the middle, so if you just wait in the safe spot and she teleports in, you're going to lose a GCD. If you instead walk into the sinkhole and it's like snapshotted as not counting anymore, you can walk into the sinkhole, get a GCD with her behind her, and then keep moving towards where she's going to teleport to get another GCD. There are so many fun things where like, oh, I can do this. This is good. Yeah, nice. So we're just on desert. We haven't even got to ads. And then we get to ads, and oh my god, learning bit by bit, learning each part of that was so satisfying. I did it on tank, you did it on tank. It was so fun to learn. We learned it before Cleave Max had come out. Then Cleave Max came out, and we're like, oh my god, this is so much better. So discovering that was fun. There was a lot of camaraderie. I did have a very serious complaint, though. There were way too many wipes to the Ranger forgetting to take their Manta. The number of times the range DPS forgot to take their Manta was crazy. And I'm usually talking about the Manta near the end, but there were a few cases where the caster didn't take the Manta. So, okay, before Cleave Max existed, the Ranger always took one of the Mantas. There were a few wipes to that, which, again, I don't get, because literally it should be the only thing you're focusing on if you're Ranger, but whatever. Then Cleave Max came out, and if you did it right, the Astro always takes that Manta. I don't think I really saw the Astro mess up taking the Manta. And the Astro has more work, because the Astro is working on healing too, so props to those Astros. But then there were a lot of times where the range DPS at the end would not take their Manta, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, it should be the only thing you're paying attention to for the most part. There was just an ungodly amount of wipes to that specific thing happening, and that was just... That's a almost rotten hard level of mistake. Not quite, because at least you had to AoE the ads, so it's a little bit more involved, but that was just crazy to me. Like, oh my god, the range didn't take the tether. Good god.
Yeah, like having to teach PF in general as a whole to learn how to like multi-target hit was just this apparatus of this function that they just could not quite understand for a while.
The moving parts of it was fun, like learning, okay, like this guy needs to be focused here, and so this was before we had extensive guides really outlining it out. So everyone was just getting a feel for it. Of course, they said you need to focus the jabber when it appears, of course, because it's just like, oh, he's there, and if you don't kill him in 10 seconds, the healer dies, so of course you gotta burst him down. But it was definitely a lot to it. It was very fun on Gunbreaker, because your burst is so nice. At the time, Double Down did more than 1,000 AoE damage. It was like 1,040 or something like that. Or was it just 1,000? 1,000 AoE damage, nothing, no strings attached. Now it's like 800 something after the nerf. And Gunbreaker didn't get hard nerfed or anything, just that ability. So again, I love Double Down, and so Double Downing in that giant pack, you just see all these giant thousand. Very satisfying. I know Warrior didn't get to be as satisfying because that the AoE is a gain on 4 because the Warrior filler is so bad. But Double Down and Lionheart was very satisfying to like a quick dump my Double Down and Lionheart and then get to my Yan because I was off tanking in some cases, you know, and then or
at least
Double Down Lionheart and now sprint to the other Manta because this Manta is about to die, so now sprint to the other Manta. Like learning the timing was extremely satisfying. It's a unique case where progging it, every part of that mechanic was just so fun to learn. So that gives it so much. And so
because I was also gonna say, like, when you have that moment of like the Warrior, what you're talking about, that lowered it for me, and switching to Dark Knight was much more fun, but it was also more challenging because at least with Warrior you never die. Like, you just don't die. But Dark Knight you do, but it's also more fun because I can actually just do my AoE filler. So, like, at least it kind of like you can just play the game how it wants you to and not have to like subconsciously worry about your meds, worry about your movement, and you have to worry about if your like your AoE is going to work properly or
Yeah.
not in that moment.
Yeah, it's fun with Gunbreaker because Gunbreaker filler is already a gain on 2. So doing your
Yep.
filler on that many ads is very satisfying as Gunbreaker because you're just dealing so much damage. And so that's the
Oh,
ad phase. So we already talked
absolutely.
about how much the desert phase was fun to prog through. Ads phase was fun, despite the fact that PF had a huge amount of issue with it. It was fun because there's like a camaraderie to it, and the only exception I said was when the ranged just forgot to get the tether. That was the only point that it made it infuriating. There were tons of other moments where we wiped, but they just didn't feel bad because you felt like you were kind of learning as a group the correct way to DPS, the correct way to move the enemies around, getting good at remembering to turn off your tank stance if you're off tank. If you're off tank and when you first kill the first Yan and then you run over to the squirrels, the Mews, if you don't turn off your tank stance, you could rip aggro, especially as Gunbreaker.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That was a big part to figure out. Lots of fun moving parts. And now we still have the rest of the fight. The bridges, the bridge section with the lakes. Literally nothing to complain about there. There were a few wipes to people greeting, but it was rare. Usually you would have maybe one death, something like that. And it was just because people greeted.
The frustrating part to me for this was like the rotten heart moment for me was just the towers. Because you would literally just have people specifically ranged.
We had
for
tank
some
LB3.
reason.
We had tank LB3 for those towers. So I was going to say, actually, funny enough, those towers were pretty free because of tank LB3.
No, yeah, now you're saying that. I guess that would be, yeah, no. I guess the worst other thing would be is like you get people that mixed up like supports go left, DPS go right for the drop of their lightnings on their own little islands, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, actually
but-
you're right. I forgot the tank LB and yeah, that didn't matter. Then.
So here's the thing with that. I think I cleared with multiple wipes on bridge because the DPS check of the whole fight was so lenient. Ads had a tighter DPS check than the whole fight.
Yes.
And so, yes, the bridges carp could be annoying, but it didn't affect the pull because they would get rezzed and you would be back in it. And then the main point that should have been a wipe point, honestly, like if they forced a cat to take LB3 at the end of the mechanic or something, forcing you to do a melee LB in ads or something like that, to then make it so you didn't have tank LB for the towers at the end, that would have been brutal. Oh my god. Yes. It wasn't until like week 5 that I saw towers without someone being dead. It was that bad.
Yes.
I don't like every pull. There was just always someone dead on towers. But you had tank LB3 and you tank LB3, and as long as I think you can survive 3 towers going off with tank LB3 and be fine.
Yeah, something like that.
And so there was usually only 1, but maybe 2. But yeah, tank LB3.
I think
was very nice.
I will also say I think the phase with the lake phase is like my favorite phase of the whole tier.
It's very fun to run. Yeah, running around.
Because then you also get to like run around and then so I think you get like as well like the moments where you get to get flung across the place. Like
yes, the flinging yourself was very clever mechanic. We didn't even touch on that mechanic. That's the first mechanic of the fight, flinging yourself, and then you bring it back where you fling yourself to the correct tower. Very satisfying mechanic to do correctly. But from a prog standpoint, the main thing to talk about is the tank LB3 saving that mechanic, and then you just have repeated mechanics after that, and fight's kind of over because there's no DPS check. We didn't really touch on her voice acting. I really like her voice acting in the fight. I think it really helps the fight.
100%.
There's just a lot of good lines. Like when she spawns the sinkhole, she goes, "Oh, I know." I don't know. That line got kind of memed a bit. Unfortunately, there's a lot of lines from M6 normal that don't make it in that I like a lot. Like some construction to facilitate deconstruction, and then Matem says, "Is that a storm cloud? I hope you brought your parasols." Like that was only in normal. Unfortunately, that would have gone hard in Savage. But even in Savage, you get lots of good lines like the putting alone is so dull, don't you think? And I don't know, there's the don't you think I liked. There's so many little lines I liked. And then her enraged line, you have reminded me of something very important. Art must be free. There's just so many enjoyable lines in that fight that really added to it as well. Just progging through it every time we get to the lines we had already heard a bunch of times. Instead of it being grating or annoying, it was just like, oh, we got to this line, it's funny. That's what it is. Oh, I know. Like, in my head, whenever she said, oh, I know, I was thinking of Yoshi commits tax fraud for some reason. Very random,
wow.
I know, commits tax fraud.
Yeah.
I don't know why, it was just something like that.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that at all. That's funny.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, definitely S for me as well. Yeah, I think it's just cut and dry for me. That was probably easy though.
My oh my, is this the exception? Because our next one, Brute Abominator, this is our first, for me, D. To the point where I'm gonna move everything up to C that was currently sitting in D as like a default point. This is like an F, actually. This is lower. Is there a way to add an F? This is an F.
Yeah, you would do like
This
do
is
the
an
gear
easy F.
on one of those, and you can add a tier is where it shows. So I'll leave you with your F. I think this is an A tier for me, so we'll differentiate. I'll start off with a little positivity on this fight. Progging this fight for me is a little bit different. So we both tanked this, but you were off tank, and I'll let you get into that, why that matters. But one, I think in general that this fight is really good in general because I love fast fights. I talked about it a lot with the music piece. But this is a fast fight. You are moving through this fight quickly, like between this platform, next platform, and the final drop to the bottom. It feels fast. A lot of this fight too, besides like the seeds, some movement with the first platform, it's all normal raid mechanics. There's not really a lot of difference in this fight than what you're doing normal mode. There's additions, but it all makes it faster. It all exemplifies normal. Now, the tough choke point was definitely Seeds 1, where you have to plant. Because there's definitely... Was there 3 different versions of Seeds? It was like...
Yes. So, okay, there's so many
like
layers to how
strat.
bad M7 was. But yes, this was our first... We're on layer 1 right now.
Yes. So, Seeds for 1, there was like cute seeds... static seeds or something like I think that was cute. I don't know. Cute seeds is what stuck because you just go to like 2 spots. You go up here and then there and then there and then there.
Yeah, Q was there at first. So like, yeah, there. So wait, I was moving around the tier list to add an F because I was so passionate about hating progging M7S. So we have it now. I changed the colors to make sense too. We have an F tier. Okay. So have you talked about P1 at all?
Yeah, I went.
I have a lot to say about.
I'm kind of going through it because you have more to say about than I do. Let's be very clear. I'm trying to give you your breath here to hop in. But my point with this, now I'm on to P2 already. So seeds here, in general, this is like the tough part. Like even with re-clears, people screwed this up. Like you got to count the seed drops, and then you have to make sure like if you're 1, you go top left or top right, and then 2. You just do this a bunch.
There was a strat that I kind of liked a lot where you planted them in a diagonal line, but
yes,
I don't
that
mind.
One was good too.
The one we ended up on, I don't mind. But so yeah, at first there were 3 strats and they were all flawed in some way. Where you would, if you got a curse pattern, you would have to do something extra. And in the case of Cute was the one that was very close. It was very close to the pattern that we used today. I forgot what the actual one is called now. But it's basically modified
I think it was
Cute.
I think Cute the thing, right?
Cute was almost there, but it needed an extra change, and Hector called it something different, I think. I could be flipping it, but basically there was a strat, so there were 3 strats for Phase 2 that came out. The first one was just kind of YOLOing it everywhere. The second one was planting them in a diagonal line. That I didn't mind, but there was a curse pattern where if both people just got a star, like the person to your left and right got a star, and then you planted your star and you have to move out of it, then it's kind of tough. But if you use eyes, it wasn't that bad. I remember not having any trouble with it because you would just consistently move to a specific spot and it would always avoid it if that specific case happened. But it tripped people up. And then Cute came out, And Q was like, okay, this is actually a proper strat now, where we're plant the seeds, and then the next seeds, and then the next seeds, and then the next seeds. But it had a big problem of, it said if you got the pattern where he's on the wall where there's a vine wall perpendicular to it, like right next to it, the off tank takes that vine, and it fundamentally doesn't work. And so the new strat finally fixed it, which made it so the healer always takes that tether. But before, the strat said off tank takes that tether, and if that's the case, you basically have to run out and run away from the boss and lose about like 10 GCDs. It was that bad. I was like, this strat is terrible. What the fuck is this strat? And so before the real strat came out...
And this probably had like the closest DPS check of the tier.
Yeah, I'd say so. And so basically until the real strat eventually came out, it didn't come out for many days, you would just pray that, as the off tank, you would just pray that you didn't it's a 50-50 which wall he's on when he does that seeds mechanic, and so you would pray you would get the seeds mechanic when he's on the wall away from the two walls that are close together. That was the solve. The solve was pray. It was just an incomplete strat, and it took a while for people to realize, okay, wait, if the healer grabs it, the healer has full uptime, healer grabs it. Now, I always thought it was weird that the range DPS isn't the one that grabs it. Is there any reason why that never became a thing?
I think healing, because that way they're separate, and you can heal.
No, but one of the healers takes a tether and is far away from everyone for the whole mechanic. Because the healer
I thought they were close. No, I know. I thought they were close enough where they weren't far away.
Yeah,
well,
but
I don't know.
I just figured, I always thought it was weird. I was like, shouldn't the rage DPS just be chilling over there? No? Okay. That was just never the case.
Probably at that point.
Yeah, it just never took hold. But, so yeah, P2 was miserable because... there were 3 different strats, and people would get confused between them all, and that none of them fundamentally were absolutely good. And the main one had a complete 50-50 chance of there being curse pattern where the off tank does no GCDs for like 30 seconds, basically. Like, yeah, if you do a thing where like you go and greet a GCD, then go back out for 2 GCDs, and then greet a GCD, and then greet a GCD, like, yeah, there's maybe like a mitt thing you could do where like you pop mitt, run away from the wall, and so now, like, even though the tether does massive damage because you pop mitt, there was probably something fancy I never looked into, because A, it's a 50-50, so you only get to test anything every few pulls, and B, the new strat thing came out 2 or 3 days later that fixed everything. Oh my god. So yeah, P2 was miserable, and let's go back to P1, because P1 had something very peculiar.
Let me do this real quick. Okay, just hang on real quick, because I'm just going to finish mine up, because I'll let you go through it. When you go through 1, then 2, then 3, in general, it's fast, with P2 being the slowest, for me. Because of seeds. You have to, like, just move back and forth for seeds. P3, the tough part is the seeds, the last seeds that you'll do, because you also have the ads that appear at the same time. That all being said, as a tank, it's interesting because you have to, like, save mitts appropriately, and you also have to be alive enough to where you're not going to get clapped by both the boss and the ads on top of that.
Yeah.
So it's very fun. And the movement, once again, is a lot of, like, the lariats that he had from the original tier. And he would just, like, glide across the screen, jump across. Generally, minus a DPS check. If you got the P3, you were pretty much safe. Because it was always seeds ones that would kill you. Majority of the time, which then it became on re-clears like seeds 2 that would be a bigger problem.
Yeah, what about the final seeds mechanic? Well, the vine mechanic. I'm talking about the
I was saying, like, in the clear, like the prog, I personally didn't have an issue with the second seeds down below. On my re-clears, the top first seeds, I didn't have issues with people. It was when we went down below that was the problem that occurred. It was weird.
Yeah, well, so for me, I never had a clean pull where no one died to the vines. You know, there's 4 vines on the walls in P3. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That mechanic was absolutely brutal, and PF could not do that mechanic at all whatsoever. It was miserable how many wipes there were to that. And then the number of times
I must have got that after, like, the clear happened for me, because then on re-clears, that's all I saw was we always healer LB3 down below because of that.
Yep.
If we had them alive.
For the most part. And the number of times they would snatch defeat from the jaws of victory in the final mechanic where all you had to do was not greed and get to the safe spot. Not greed and drop off your puddle, your star, and not greed and get to the safe spot. And the number of times we had like 3 or 4 people die to that was crazy. It's not Rotten Heart level, because Rotten Heart, literally, you are doing nothing but looking at your timer and you walk center at 6. This, you need to GCD, go out, drop your puddle, and then go to the safe spot. There's actual thinking you have to do, so it's not Rotten Heart levels of bad. But it's not hard, and if you just don't greed, you win. And so it's like, guys, why did you greed that? We're all dead. Oh my god, this is so dumb. Because if you had two deaths there, you were not meeting the DPS check easy.
Yep.
So it was just tragic seeing people die there. And it happened a lot. A huge amount, actually. And so let's go back to talking about P1, because P1 was actually the most egregious part of the entire fight for me. I guess, did you see a lot of parties with uptime P1? Because it was genuinely demonic how awful that was.
Just with you and I, that was the only times I saw it, because then it like quickly went away, like, don't do uptime, because uptime was just ridiculously stupid and overcomplicated.
Yes. I think I had
no uptime. That was the worst part of it.
Yes, I had a few extra days ahead of you, because I think I cleared 2 days. I cleared sugar 2 or 3 days ahead of you, something like that.
Correct.
And so in those days, uptime was the more common strat. It was awful. And I was like, literally within one session of me doing it, I was like, guys, this strat does not work. This is terrible. And then the next PF I joined, I'm like, okay, let me join a PF that's not uptime. Like, okay, this actually makes sense. This is an actual mechanic. And so from that point onward, I would join parties, and sometimes there was only uptime P1 parties. And let's actually go into this. So it was called uptime. And so, of course, people see the word uptime, and they just go, oh, it's uptime? That means it's better. We have to do it.
Gotta do it.
Here's the thing. I usually agree to a degree. In this particular case, like Mista just said earlier, literally, you do not get more uptime, because you trade not giving up uptime at one point to giving up uptime at a later point, and it evens out. So it's a worse way of doing a mechanic, so that you can swap out having more uptime at one point and less uptime at a different point. Literally just is objectively worse strat. And it was just terrible, because you would gain uptime by dropping puddles around the boss. That was where you gained uptime. But then the ads spawned on 2 different corners of the map, and you can't properly AoE them until they're together. So for about 3 or 4 GCDs, people are hitting these 2 ads, and people are hitting these 2 ads, and you're not getting AoE value. You're losing a shit ton of damage by missing out on that much AoE value. And it is just a mess. The ads are all over the place. It is just a terrible strat. Not only that, but people, because of how it works, you drop puddles around the boss, and how it works, each of those puddles becomes defamation sized, and so you have to get to the very corner. It was actually a very tight movement. You need to very, very tightly take your stack and immediately get to the correct corner. People could not do that. They could not. You would have at least 2 or 3 people dead every single time. And so I was in Discord, like, doing polls, and I was talking about how bad uptime was, and then a party insisted on doing uptime again. I was like, okay, let's do it. And if you remember in Discord, you would hear me saying, oh, uptime, because we would get to uptime, wipe. Get to uptime, wipe. Get to uptime, wipe. Get to uptime, wipe. And then on the 5th or 6th wipe, someone leaves. And it's just like, oh, uptime. This is truly a god-awful strat. And the main argument that I said at the time was, I did uptime for 1 session and I was done with it. Like 30 minutes and I was done with it. I never want to do it again. Okay. Are these people who are doing uptime PFs doing uptime for a session and not doing that? Because if you do uptime for 1 session and you don't reach the conclusion that it's a deranged, awful mechanic, you need to be put in a psych ward. It was that bad. But still, for days, for at least 2 days, uptime dominated the PF charts. I was like, This is a fundamentally awful solve to the mechanic. How? How is PF still latching onto this? You do less uptime in uptime. It's just crazy. And I've never seen anything like it. And so that alone gets it to D, and then everything else about it puts it down to F, I'd say. So P1 had something awful about it with uptime. P2 just did not have finalized strats. What is it, like 2.5 weeks into rating coming out? It did not have a finalized strat.
Because of seeds, yeah.
So P2 was awful because there was not a proper solve 2.5 weeks in. And then P3 was the actual true genuine wall mechanic with the 4 vines on the wall. And so wiping there actually made sense, but P1 and P2 was already such a slog that wiping there still felt really bad. And then people would straight up grief the party again, not in a rotten heart way, but getting there. And they would grief the party on the final mechanic.
You're also right. Like, just to be clear, like, because I had a good prog for that, like, it was different. I actually checked our prog time, so I was 9.9. You were 15.6 hours logged for your clear.
Yeah, because I think those extra days I was ahead of you were basically just, they went into a ditch. They basically didn't matter because uptime...
That's how you put it, too.
P2,
I actually remember you saying that same thing. You told me that same thing back then. As soon as you described that, that's exactly how you put it before, too.
Because all my time was spent convincing parties that uptime sucked, and then the rest of the time was spent figuring out how to actually do P2 correctly because no solve existed for it yet.
You know, they needed the stress-free strat. That's what they needed. Shout out to
that's later.
Extreme. But anyway, I don't want to get too much onto this. I think we got it. Unless you have something you just really want to
I feel like I've argued for it correctly in F tier, and it is where it deserves for Prog.
All right. I'm glad. All right. Howling Blade. I know this sounds weird, but I don't have a lot to say about Howling Blade Prog. So I'm just going to kind of hit a few notes here. But yeah. The worst thing for me, it wasn't, and keep in mind, you might spark my memory on this, but Millennial Decay. Was, yep. That was the most frustrating piece of
Well then,
P1.
You do have stuff to say about it then. Yes.
Oh well, yeah, but like after this, it's not that much, you know. But it's Millennial Decay being this like annoying freaking. Everybody's doing the same thing. Like if you're ranged, you're doing the same thing, but on the other side. If you're melee, you're doing the same thing, but on the other side of each other, right? Because you're on basically different ends of the boss, and like my head being the boss, you're just doing this the whole time. And all you need to do is the same thing. You do 2 different versions of the same thing, no matter what. And people just lost their minds when doing this. You would have a ranged person colliding on top of the melee because they just don't understand like how the movement works, you know? Even if they cleared it, they still don't, because there is that weird niche opportunity from whatever, especially like the side that's specifically the side that it's rotating, the bar in the middle, like as it rotates around. The group that it goes clockwise or counterclockwise against, that ranged person would collide against the melee so many times because they don't know just to they can collapse and they don't need to stretch out and just be in the middle of the room and move. They made it harder for themselves.
PF could not do Millennial Decay. I joined a fresh party that eventually saw Millennial Decay, and after 2 pulls, I was ready to go. I'm like, all right, I have this mechanic down completely. But of course, we didn't see through Millennial Decay that session, but I get it. Not everyone learns as fast. But then I joined another party, and they were stuck on Millennial Decay. I was like, wow, you guys really can't do it. And then the chat was just full of people complaining about how bad of a strat it was, and I was like, guys, it's really not that bad at all. I think it's a great strat, actually. I've had literally 0 issues, 0 complaints about the strat. I was like, hey, just making sure, once you've done your spread marker, you're stacking on your partner. Off tank and main tank are partners, melee 1 and melee 2 are partners. You're stacking on your partner to make as much space as possible, right? And they're like, oh, is that what we're supposed to do? They just did not understand the mechanic at all. And I will say the raid plan wasn't perfect for explaining it, but I didn't need the raid plan for it to click, oh, stand close together to make it more efficient. And then when we're taking the spread, so for tanks, it was the two ranges. The ranges will be standing close together to make as much space for the tanks. And once I prog lied to get through Millennial Decay, I was smooth sailing, because after I saw that part, like, damn, people are something's not right in their brains for Millennial Decay. We're gonna need to skip past this. And so I joined an ads party, saw the ads, and wiped to a mistake that was not my own. I'm like, oh, okay, we're chilling. So okay, easy. Great. Yeah, because ads was pretty free for tank. And so it was bad, Millennial Decay, but it did not harm my enjoyment because I just prog lied through it and we were set. Just get past the people that were not all there in the head for Millennial Decay, and it was smooth sailing pretty much. But
my favorite part about this, like, just the mechanic, it's just not as a mechanic, but as the fight it goes. I love how fast this fight is. Once again, it's another fast one. Yeah,
Revolution was very satisfying mechanic to learn. So
oh my gosh, especially as
optimizing your uptime, optimizing the Revolution uptime. So actually, even Eminent, the whole thing where you get a GCD and you dance across to the other side and he dashes towards you, that was fun. But then Revolution, I was full focused. That was the hardest mechanic of the fight for tanks. And so it's, even today, if I went into it right now, I'd probably need at least one pull to derust it, because you really just need to get a consistent feel for it. It's not something that you can just always do consistently. I feel like it's very easy to fuck up, but learning the optimal uptime there of GCD, he jumps over, GCD, gap close, GCD, immediately beeline backing up to the exact little pixel safe spot, snapshot, gap close, GCD back in. That was just so satisfying whenever you pull that off correctly. You just feel so clean. And so learning that was very satisfying. Very, very fun to learn. And so, aside from Millennial Decay, there were a few ads-wise, but nothing too crazy. The mechanic after Millennial Decay with the colossal thing, that was comically easy. I was expecting that mechanic to be super complicated, but normal is actually more difficult.
Shout out to the meme voice line of this, which was Matim.
Where did that colossal thing come from?
Yeah. You're right, but it is easy. Like, it goes from Yojimbo difficulty to, like, you can only go to 2 spots. You know what I mean?
I was just surprised, honestly. But nothing to complain about. PF did not have any issues there. Adds a tiny bit of difficulty but by the next party I was already seeing through ads. Now the next mechanic, though, there was a decent amount of trouble, and it was unfortunately a body check. It's basically a guaranteed wipe if one person dies in the middle of it. I forget what it was called, but it's the one where
there's Moonlight?
No, that's the mechanic after.
Okay.
It's the clock. So it's the clock in Fairing Clock Quad.
Right.
And people had a lot of trouble with a lot of parts. So people would greed. We weren't stuck on it for that long, though. But, people would greed when they shouldn't have greeded and kill someone else. And then there's the people not understanding where to put their spread, and they would just stand on the stack. And so, but I would say once I would explain in the PF, I would just go, hey, the stack spot is always either north. If north is available, it's north. If north is not available, it's clockwise of north. That's it.
It was terrestrial, by the way.
Okay, terrestrial. And so I think that really helped it click for people. Because the raid plans, of course, the raid plan was good enough for me. So I'm not saying the raid plan was bad. But I think people needed a little bit more oomph to just have it click. And then they did. And so I would say terrestrial was not too bad for me. Beck and Moonlight, on the other hand, was brutal. The number of times we would just, everything was looking clean, and then crash and burn in Beck and Moonlight was quite a lot. I don't know. Yep. Did you experience that? Because
there was that, but that was once again more so not on the clear. So my clear, so it took me about 20 hours of prog to get this one. Yours is sitting at 18.
Okay.
And like when I'm looking at this, I was thinking that my choke point for this fight was just Millennial Decay. Like that unironically, but so many times, because once I got past it, it became just the freaking choke point that still would get us, and then it was the Moonlight, and then Moonlight hit.
And so, yeah, even on re-clears, but like progging P2, it was always like, okay, we're gonna get through Moonlight and finally get a good P2 pull, let's find out. And it was just people didn't know how to stand in Beck and Moonlight. The quad just didn't click for some people. But
even so, like doing the Moonlight here, like you're right, Moonlight became the Millennial Decay of re-clears.
Millennial Decay didn't last long for me, as far as it being bad.
But that was just mine, and then everything else adds, especially as a tank. I just ran like it's not too bad as tank.
Yeah,
to
adds
be
is
fair,
fun
like,
on tank.
Every other,
because
running.
You wanna optimize your GCD, move a little, GCD, move a little, and so that's already fun to do on other fights. But it's just that, but more fun. Oh, aiming your cone. Yeah. The number of tanks that I saw didn't realize that you had to aim the cone out.
Oh my god!
And the number of times the cone was just I would see the magma just kill everyone on my side. I was like, oh, okay.
Yep, you're right.
Hey,
now P2,
you gotta aim that, by the way.
P2, and like when I went into it, it felt like, oh my gosh, this is difficult. Like there's a lot going on.
I really was kind of nonstop enjoying P2. I think there was very little of me thinking, oh, we wiped again. Like I was just kind of nonstop. Like Ultraviolet, after like a few pulls, Ultraviolet was good. It was fun to learn. I think
as a tank, it's another piece of that, because it's like the mid timings. Yep, mid timings was actually one of the most fun portions of a fight, and that's usually for me not it. It's more like a hassle for mid timings, because you're like, okay, I have to like put this correctly, otherwise we just wipe the raid, right? But not this one. I sincerely was like, oh, okay. My biggest complaint with P2 as a tank wasn't any of that. It was the freaking auto attacks that I would just get, and healers would just disregard my life. And
during twofold.
Dude,
it's because the healers were so focused on doing other stuff, they just forget about the tanks. That's a big hurdle for the healers to figure out.
And it's just like, bro, I just need you to throw like a regen on me, and I'm good generally.
Aurora definitely came in handy in that fight.
Oh my god, I hated playing Dark Knight on that fight, which changed from going from Warrior on Sugar Riot to now this, because I'm like, oh my god, like I don't want to play. I wanted to play Dark Knight because it was like more fun but dangerous, and now it's like I don't want to play Dark Knight just because people can't heal me. Like now on my clear though, like I saw it a few times, but I was like, you know me, like once I see the final like portion of it, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to clear. Like I'm good now, right? But on my like clear attempt pull, it was a one shot, the whole thing, from start to finish. We one shot cleared it, and I was like, damn, okay. DPS check, not there, because at P2 I had the luxury of like having everybody know pot timings a little bit better, and we didn't need the pot for P1, so we also didn't need to worry about LB for P1, so there's a lot of like carryover extra stuff you got to use. But yeah, like P2, the main thing I had wasn't a mechanic. It wasn't learning like the in-out baits. It was just the auto attacks from follow-up mechanics, because I enjoyed every bit of it. Even like having to bait like Ultraviolet, that was fun. There was not a problem with having to I forgot what the tower mechanic was called, but you know how you had to go like the blue-green tether and take that away? Like us adjusting for having to do that was also fun. I did in P2, the hurdle was the only hurdle, I guess, was the auto attacks, yes, for me, but then it was also, on the other hand, it was the baits where you have like one side's getting shot, the other side's getting
twofold. Twofold was the only truly very, very difficult mechanic of P2, right. I'd say. And so it made it so it was fun to learn, and it wasn't brutal for PF, except for twofold. And so there was nothing like Sunrise where you get brutalized. So I've just as a starting point, I put it in front of Wicked Thunder. It's now top of A. Because Lone Wolf Lament was pretty easy, and then there's Ultraviolet at the end did cause deaths usually, it was pretty brutal, honestly, but you could res through the deaths and be fine, for the most part.
Sure.
And it didn't feel bad having people mess up there for the most part, because it was tough. Like
Yeah.
everyone was kind of focused on like, ooh, because if you get the bad cleave aimed at you, you have a few seconds to get to the right side, run to the correct half of that platform, be in or out correctly. Yep. It was fun. And then the finale, like, you kind of know that you're gonna meet the DPS check, and so the finale's fun. As tanks, if you did your mitts correctly, everything's going well. As you know, the invuln part's fun for tanks also.
Sure.
And then you clear. Like, really, like, no complaints. No complaints for basically any of P2. Lots of enjoyable parts of P2. Lots of enjoyable parts for P1. Millennial did not affect me that much, my enjoyability. Like, I wasn't stuck in that much Millennial PF. And then Beacon made it a little annoying because people didn't get quads, but once you got a little bit into P2, that started to go away for the most part. So I would put it above Book of Thunder.
Yeah, I agree.
Progging it. It was fun.
I think just like the biggest thing for me was the speed of it. Once again, that speed prog through that, or sorry, not the speed prog, but just like how fast the fight is just in general, that's what made it really, really great for me. So, yeah, I don't have too much to add. I think from there, it's just pretty much good.
We did forget one thing, by the way. I just realized this chart does not have M12 P2 separate. That's a little awkward, because they're very separate fights.
Yep. It's like the most unique fight in the whole raid series, in my opinion.
So, yeah.
But well,
whatever,
maybe Sugar Riot.
Yeah. We forgot, I wonder if you can keep up.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if you can keep... Oh, man. Another shout-out voice line there. I just like getting into that. It just got so brain rotty with it over time. Oh, my God. Yeah. You called it out before, but another shout-out just to, like, progging this is just Matem. And, like, it's so good, but you call it out where you're like, yes, it's very good. I'm glad that he's a part of this, and I hope they carry it over. But then you're like, what? What do you follow that up with?
Yeah, I think they're gonna. I'm hoping that whatever they do turns out well in the next expansion. But I feel like they're gonna feel pressured to do another Matem, and it's not gonna hit as hard.
Correct, because it's the follow up. It's the same. When it's a follow up, it's hard to make the first one good, let alone the sequel, and then. It's just, you're just repeating. Like, it doesn't have the same impact. Another shout out just to, like, progging this is just Matem. And, like, it's so good, but you call it out where you're like, yes, it's very good. I'm glad that he's a part of this, and I hope they carry it over. But then you're like, what? What do you follow that up with?
Yeah, I think they're gonna. I'm hoping that whatever they do turns out well in the next expansion. But I feel like they're gonna feel pressured to do another Matem, and it's not gonna hit as hard.
Correct, because it's the follow up. It's the same. When it's a follow up, it's hard to make the first one good, let alone the sequel, and then it's just you're just repeating. Like it doesn't have the same impact.
Okay.
All right. We're going on to Vamp Fatale, last tier.
Just really nothing too bad. We got on patch day. We cleared it in like one session, I think. Oh, okay. I got on a bit later than you guys did. You guys had already started at least. Yeah. Really nothing to complain about. The ads phase were fun to learn. Teaching people that
I have one thing.
The tanks have to be helped. Was one thing, but yeah, I don't have much to say.
I have one thing. Do you remember an Aether letting?
Yes.
Do you remember the original strat that was going on, or did you?
No, I don't think I was there for the original. I only saw static ever.
That was my only issue with the fight. There was this: if you were there day one, hour one, working on it, right?
Yeah, I was like hour two, so I missed it.
The original strat was basically in the order you received it. You were supposed to like rotate to the wall like the same, and you kept rotating around the room, and that was supposed to, because you would be moving with the group, so it's like these would shoot out, but you would be away. It's that like when you go through it, the only thing that you had to do was, air quotes, had to do. You went to the wall, dropped your thing, you would rotate around. But the problem that would happen is, one, people would be shooting their things off incorrectly. So you'd have to, like, work around that. Two, you would also have to move around, like, where you are in general with the movement. So you had to drop and then move. All of that made that way more complicated. I was like, this fight is so much harder than it needed to be, because we got past it, but it would, like, we would have to reset because of it. As we re-prog through it, I'm like, oh my god, this is annoying. I was like, this is so frustrating in general of, like, trying to get through this. And then static came out. Never wiped to it again. Even on the first run of doing it, there were some deaths and, like, a little bit of a learning, but, like, as a group, it was not a wipe again to that. And then you came on board, and luckily you got to avoid that.
Nice.
That's really the only thing. Other than that, like, it was cool ad space, like, with the things dropping down. It was more so, instead of, like, ad space, I call it, like, a multi-target phase, is a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
There's that, which is cool. I like that there was the intro to, like, the towers piece was kind of cool as well. Like, you got to do that. But it's all repeat stuff you've seen before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just a cool intro phase. Nothing wrong. It's just your average phase. Probably B. I would put it.
I was gonna put it above Black Cat. Remember, B is Honeybee, which we had a bit of a grievance against as far as progging it. So
Fair.
Black Cat is our neutral, nothing bad to say about it, at least for me. So I put it above Black Cat because I liked it more than Black Cat, I'd say.
I would just put it below Black Cat. I like Black Cat
because you had the Aether Lighting grievance. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. But it's still, we're generally the same. Now, on to
the extremes.
The Redacted Bros. Yeah.
So this is
go
a
ahead,
solid D, I'd say, not F. Nothing can compare to how much was wrong with Abominator, but I think it was still pretty bad that first day. That was awful.
Oh,
it was
man.
Mainly due to the fact that there was not... The strat for water fire snakes literally didn't exist. If you looked at Toxic, it basically did the meme where it said, Step 1, draw an outline. Step 2, draw the rest of the owl. Was basically what the Toxic plan said. And so I was talking to Mista, I was like, all these PFs say Toxic, Toxic, Toxic. Why would you want to do Toxic? Like, literally, what is your plan? Like, tell me right now, if you're doing Toxic, what are you doing in Water Fire Snakes? Literally, what are you doing? Assuming you don't get the one strat, because here's the thing, Toxic did say what to do in Water Fire Snakes, but only for one pattern. And there were so many permutations. It didn't say where to spread, if it was water spread at the end. It didn't say what the fire tank needed to do. It didn't tell the fire people where to stand to bait the safe cone. It said none of that. And its pattern only showed what to do if melee was not getting cleaved by the tsunami. And so it was awful. Like, it was basically unproggable. It was truly an unproggable mechanic because there was no strat for it. And I was so pissed at how bad it was and so confused at how PF was so okay going along with it that night we cleared M9, then we were stuck on M10 water snaking. And so for the rest of that night, I literally was inspired and I just made my own raid plan that actually said literally what to do. And it never properly took hold. It did take hold because I did start spreading it around, and PF's like, hey guys, do you want a plan for snakes? Because I made one. And they're like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, it was actually validating to see so many people liked it. But I did the very bold and controversial thing of, I said literally what to do in every permutation, and I actually said what any given role is doing. Like, a huge thing, none of the plans, so, because Toxic wasn't the only plan, there were a few, none of them said what to do if it was spread, first of all, which is crazy to me. Like, how could you forget to include what to do if it's water spread at the end of the mechanic, which is idiotic. But two, none of the plans told the fire tank what to do, because when he jumps to 4 people, 4 fire bait jumps, after that 4th jump, he is movable by the fire tank. Okay, for about 5 seconds, something like that, maybe 3. You have a few seconds to move him into position. And none of the guides pointed out how important it was for the tank to move the fire guy into position. Even if it was going to show one permutation, it never did. It just said, oh, like, it never made any mention. It just said, yeah, aim the fire in a good way. Good luck. And so I did the bold and controversial thing of explain that the fire tank has a few seconds to position him correctly, and if the middle's getting cleaved by the tsunami, stand here and make him walk there, you're good. If the middle is safe, stand here, he'll walk here, you're good. Fire people always stand on the spot, you're good. Water, if it's water spread like this. I also made a mention of there's no consequences for a water spread hitting a fire. So to make even more space, I said the water tank can stack on the fire tank, and that's also more profit. So that was fun. But so that first day was abominable because literally it's a very unique scenario of, because at least with M7S we were a few weeks in. So it's relatively crazier for M7S because a few weeks in and there wasn't a solve yet is crazy. After about 3 days, there were proper guides like mine showing solves. Like Toxic modified their guide, and other guides modified their thing, and that's what took off. They modify their old guides to be similar to what I was already saying, basically. And so in M7, it took 3 weeks, like 2 weeks and change, to be a proper solve. So it was actually worse for M7 now that I think about it, but we didn't experience that. This was day one, and day one, that snake mechanic was awful. But now day 2. So let's go on to day 2, because it doesn't end there. Because, what's it called? The ad phase with the giant ad, the water ad. You remember what it's called?
I'm not. I'll figure it out. But it's this big sphere in the middle.
Yeah, the water ad. So,
yep.
People could not do that. So even even without a strat that existed for it at the time, parallel, I had no issue at all doing it. It was just like, oh, the water guy's here. You can't let it hit the middle, therefore just drag it like that. Oh, you got fire tether? Oh, drag it like that. Oh, you got no tether? Look at the fire and water guy. The fire guy's always going to be through the middle, so just be perpendicular to him. And the water guy is, if you're perpendicular to the fire guy, but close to the water guy, you'll always be like one step away from the safe spot. It was just that simple. PF could not do that. So parallel was a godsend when that came out. Here's the thing, though, Mista, were you there for the number of people that just murdered so many people in parallel because they could not do it correctly? It was crazy. It was like they didn't see that the PF description said parallel, so they didn't even know there was a strat, or I don't know what it was, but parallel the strat was a godsend, but PF still couldn't do it. It was crazy. I don't know what was wrong with them. PF could not do that mechanic at all. I don't get it.
I don't know if it's Deep Aerial 2, I think is what it's called.
Is
technically, because Deep Aerial is just like it's, well, they cast Deep Aerial into the 2 towers, never forget, and that creates the sphere. So, like, that's, I think, I'm just going to call it Deep Aerial 2.
Nice. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, people just could not do it. So we already had all the terrible, awful prog with water snakes, and then another immediately after terrible, awful prog with deep aerial, and then that into arena split. And so at least arena split was a genuinely difficult mechanic that people walled on. So that's the first true, correct, understandable wall. But it was another wall. It was triple wall. 3 walls in a row. Water fire snakes, deep aerial, arena split. It was just abominable. PF just could not do that fight. And unfortunately, the fight has a ton of RP in it. Kind of like Brute Bomber does with knocking out the ref. But Brute Bomber wasn't painful to play, wasn't painful right after that point. Whereas those 3 mechanics were a little after that. Their RP where the extremes fight as one, you know, and all that.
Yep.
So you just had to see through the RP every single pull, only just to wipe on those mechanics that weren't even that hard except for arena split. A big thing that helped me with arena split was understanding how reverse actually worked. Because I don't know about you, I thought it was kind of like what's the Shadowbringers Extreme against the leader of the Garleans? I forget his name.
Oh, yeah, Von Gaius
And so
Belfar,
that
yeah.
that mechanic in the fight had Proteans that rotated, and so I thought it worked like that, but no, it's Proteans that have that. Okay, so a Protean goes out, and then the area right next to the Protean gets a half bad. That's how that mechanic works, and I never realized that's how it worked until way later. And so whenever you got reverse and you were on the far side of Arena Split, I was basically just YOLOing, hoping it worked. I was like, okay, we're supposed to stand somewhere in the middle, and it would work sometimes, sometimes not. And I realize now it works if the two Proteans are overlapping. If they're not overlapping, it will not work. So that's just a reverse thing. But yeah, that was just a dumb thing with Arena Split. Arena Split was genuinely difficult because the Protean aiming was so awkward and there were so many moving parts. So Arena Split, not a lot of room for error. So that one was understandable. I didn't actually get reverse far that much, so I didn't even have a chance to really mess it up myself. But I understood why people were messing it up. So, and it was recoverable because you have healer LB3 there. But yeah, Arena Split was understandable, but it followed two other mechanics that just was non-stop wiping. So terrible,
Yep.
terrible, terrible. And then the final mechanic of the fight, the triple stack with the tank bait, for some reason, I don't get it. And this stretched on to multiple reclears after. I did not see a clean triple stack with tank bait until like my 5th clear. Something like that. It was that crazy. And I was usually the one doing the tank bait, and I would try to get back in the stack as fast as possible, but by the time I was getting back into the stack, there was already 2 people dead because 2 people soloed a stack alone. And it was just there was basically always deaths there, and it was crazy. And week 1, DPS check was not free, and odds are someone griefed in somewhere else, and it was just... So, the bam, bam, bam of bad mechanics in a row, and then the final snatching defeat from the jaws of victory mechanic with that triple stack. PF was hard lock day 1, it was unproggable. Truly unproggable day 1. So, honestly, the more I talk about it, it sounds like F, but it just didn't come to as traumatic as M7, and I think that's fair because M7 was traumatic after more than 2 weeks of time for PF to figure out strats, whereas this was day 1. This was M10S was day 1. So I think there's a little bit more leeway to PF being awful for day 1
Sure.
rather than day 15.
Yes.
So yeah, that's why it's D and not F. But wow, that was that was bad.
I mean, we generally had the same thing. You cleared, like, I think the night before I did, and then I woke up and cleared.
Yeah.
But, like, yes, it was just, at that point, it was just finding the attrition to go through it mentally. And then also it was just rolling the dice on people that could just be consistent through at least not only snaking at that point, because that was also before better snaking came out. I forgot how it looked before. I think it was like it's like the 4 points in the middle, like that square, instead of putting the square on the side, and then you went left, right for the baits for the fire. So there was a lot of differences that came out. Even week 1, there was just a bunch of stuff that came out. So I don't know. I wish there was I wish that fight, well, I think it's a great fight. I do think that you're right. Like, that Prog piece of it really was just so...
This is very different ranking than our favorite ranking, that's for sure.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, I don't know. I just, I kind of wish this was like, for me, what it felt like for the dancing green with the floors that I was talking about earlier. It's like that, but worse now. Like, because it was multiple pit stops of problems, you know?
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. You got everything that I needed.
I think
I said.
One thing to note is in Deep Aerial, so sometimes someone would kill someone else and it's not good. Okay, but there were the other times where someone hit the stack with the water. They had the water tether and they hit the ad, and that's a guaranteed wipe because you will not have enough damage to clear at that point. You have to send your 2 minutes into the ad, and you miss out basically on a full 2 minutes worth of damage, and you're basically guaranteed to enrage at that point. So that was one person has the power to cause a full wipe. It's just terrible. Another thing. But okay.
Yep.
Tyrant.
Yeah, but okay. Oh man, Tyrant. I'll start us off with this one. Hardest fight of the entire like series? I think so.
Yeah, I'd say so. But again, that's mainly due to DPS than anything else. There's a lot of other fights where if all you changed was made him have a few extra percents of health, which made the DPS check much tighter, it would parallel or surpass this fight. I would say the main lynch point was the DPS check. If you took M7, and gave it a harder DPS check, I think it would top Tyrant. I say.
Okay. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't like, because Split Arena for Tyrant, because you got to think. I actually I don't think so, because this fight's longer and there's so many points. Because you got to think about it too.
I would say M12 with a tight DPS check would be harder for sure.
Having to do P2.
P2. Idyllic with
I agree.
Idyllic with good uptime would push it to its limit. The fact that there's not a tight DPS check changes things a lot for Idyllic.
Yeah, I agree. I remember, because like no matter what with Idyllic, if you can do an LB2 and like get out of it, you're probably going to clear that fight. You know, like there's LB3, really not a lot. Yeah, sorry, that's LB2, LB3. Yeah, you LB3 your way out of it, and you're generally okay with the DPS check because they're accounting you to not have uptime. Which now it's even worse of an effect because you have DE and uptime now, and that's not like the DPS check. While it is like it's tough. Don't get me wrong. Like you needed to like still hit the boss and do your mechanic, and that's really what the problem was with the DPS check. I mean, there's not a problem with it at all. But anyway, let's focus on 11 for now. First of all, I think it is the toughest tier turn 3 because it's not only long, it's longer than any of them. And 2, you have so many like wipe points for the raid. So yes, any ultimate weapon can be a wipe point because it could be like you don't have enough people for the axe, you don't have enough people to stack for the sword, the scythe is whatever. Then you have to go through that. Then you have puddles that will like the melee will F up until True North mechanic came out for that. And then on top of that, you have to do it again. Then you have to do the brick house strategy of like you have to like stack with people into your spots, which that doesn't necessarily wipe you, but it's because you have such a tight DPS check that a death there just means like you might as well wipe and reset.
We'll have a lot to talk about.
Then to follow. Yep, and then you have another reset opportunity with the next ultimate weapon because yes, if you die, or ironically, if you die early enough and don't run into another sword or like you can survive the axe, you can res up because you have twisters, like literal twisters that are going on, that you'll have to like bait the cones that shoot out, and that's a body check.
Yep.
So on top of all of that, that's another check. Then you have orbitals, which that next one isn't necessarily a body check to kill, but once again, if you get multiple damage downs and it's not during a 2-minute window, and really just feels like in general, you're going to have another issue where you're probably going to wipe again, and you might as well just wipe, because why would you go through that and not have the ability just to not have a clean run, because you know the DPS check is so crazy. Then you have meteors. And I didn't really have an issue with people like not knowing how to do meteors, to be fair. It seemed like everyone that was doing meteors knew what to do. So that was fine. But that if you drop a meteor too close, you can die and wipe everybody. And then you have people that have
very few meteor wipes myself, yeah.
My only meteor wipe I ever had with like someone launching it was actually a reclaim party, believe it or not. But anyway, then you get that can wipe people because the people that want to greed to be too close when it's like slamming the ground and like exploding as you walk backwards. But then you have Split Arena. And that's the
Yep.
major choke point of the fight. Without getting too much into that, because I can leave that to you to kind of explain the ins and outs. Obviously, it's the piece of the choke point where people just don't get it. They're just not, it's not up here with functioning. And I will say my major grievance until you brought it up to me about using the sunrise strat with it was like people like, oh, it's in inner or outer corners, everything. And you still see that today. That is a question you get today in Reclairs. And we're like, what, week 6, 7 at this point? You know, like we don't know what to do and what the best one is. Still like this, like we can't fucking function without knowing what that is, when all you have to do is the square mechanic that you taught me, that you brought back from Sunrise. And I was like, oh yeah, because when you the lineup is like the shots from the portals or the tethers, whatever, are shooting at you, you see that that's there, and you see that it makes sense, and you're clear.
Now, pause, by the way. You froze for about 3 to 4 seconds in that explanation, unfortunately. Like
okay, go ahead.
About the arena split. Just when in the last 10 seconds of what you're saying about arena split, 4 of those seconds froze.
Okay, I'll regroup here. And it's like, when you showed me where to stand, like in the square we brought up, and you're going the middle, and then you're also on the side of it a little bit, but you're still in the square. All you need to do is stand in that square. That's it. And be on to the right of the white line that's shooting at you, or the left of it that's shooting at you. Just be away from it. And people to this day still want to fight over that like inner outer corner, and you just don't need to care, because when you do it right and you use that strat, it's your placement. You see how the lines shoot out.
Yeah. You're just
in general. Even if you do inner outer, you're right. You just are in a better spot that will keep you safer in the long term. And it's that easy. It is literally that easy. But people don't get it.
Yep.
They don't understand it. They don't get it. And they still want to fight over it. And I just don't. I just don't. Whatever. But anyway.
It was just
with that being said.
There was such counteractive mechanics going against each other there. At war with each other.
That being said. That in itself is a legit wipe point.
Yeah, it did not feel terrible wiping there, for sure. It was like, this is a tough mechanic and we're getting through it. That was definitely
But it's another one.
Yep.
But it's another one. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, okay, I'll get past this and we're good.
Yep.
Then you had people literally that can't function to like where to go safe side when he slams the safe side down at the end of it.
Yeah,
but then I had the crazy... Yeah, I had the crazy, unbelievable strat reveal of just look at his head and he's pointing the direction before like his directional slam happens.
The animation
of where he's going. Yep, and I'm like, there you go. That's it. I think that helped you, or at least someone in the group.
I never looked at his head. I looked like he heaves. He does like a heaving animation. And so he either heaves like this or heaves like that. And whichever direction he heaves towards is where he's lifting it towards. Because he's literally heaving and then lifts the arena in that way. So that's what I always use, the heave. Yeah. And then my head strat, that sounds weird. That gave you... Your 790
but that like gave
strat.
you the... Yeah. But it gave you that information just like right before the heave. Because I know what you're talking about. That's what I had too. So, on top of that, you're probably thinking, hey, we're done.
We got through arena split. We got through the big mechanic.
But yeah, okay, now it's orbital again. Okay, well, it's a repeat mechanic. You know, we're fine. No, it's not. We got a new Stampede. Stampede is the most frustrating part, and this is for me the part that I got gaslit by PF so much that it frustrated the piss out of me.
Tanks were chilling during that mechanic. That was nice for tanks.
So it all becomes like, now we have like, one, to make it easier, we have static Stampede, which is way better in general, just because it's consistent. And you have uptime, which, oh my god, are that 1% if we had probably the static Stampede.
Did you just say what? Did you just say 1%?
Less than 1%. I might have cut out that less than 1%.
I know.
Less than 1%.
0.04%, but we'll get back to that.
I'll let you can have that one. But like, you get there and you have obviously the baits that have to go off. and then you have to spread your tether out, which people would F that up to in general, but you got past that quickly. Then it's the 2-fold or the 4-fold. And people would just shoot that out and die. So what you don't know, basically, if you have 4-fold, you have 4 people around the circle, and they would shoot out the 4-fold debate, and you have to shoot the other person to basically take a AoE together, a line AoE together to not die. On top of that, you had to make sure that the person that was out there would, generally it could be a melee, you would jump in. You just need to be lined up. So you just have boss, person that was baiting, and the person that was taking the line with you. They can't move out of it. The other half of it was you have 2-fold, where it's just, you have person in the middle, you had boss, and you had person to bait the lines, and then everyone else would just bait it in that line in front of them. The amount of people that would just, especially in 2-fold,
yes, it
that
was
would
crazy.
just,
I didn't get it.
Like, mentally deranged, just like, oh, the mechanic's about to go off, I'll just switch sides out of nowhere for no reason.
Remember, I typed in chat after like the 7th time that happened. I was like, scientists will be studying how people had so much trouble on this mechanic. I don't get it.
Yep. Just out of nowhere. It would be also the ranged person too, I found. So there must have been something, they're just like, maybe there was something in the raid plan that would designate them to be there, and like we weren't understanding it. But you're already planted. Just plant.
I would see a result, like, things are looking good, and then it would go off, and I would see 2 lines, and I'm like, wait, what happened? Like, oh, that guy moved at the last second and killed everyone. Okay, why did he do that? Like, why? Why did you just do that?
And then it just ended up being like, okay, this is the clear, into, well, this is a good learning opportunity, I guess.
Yep.
Like, let's, and there was a little bit, like, your strat of doing TTT for the towers makes the most sense, but Party Finder still does PTT the most.
I don't mind PTT anymore because I pop mitts during the final tower, and that's right around... Well, so, okay, you know what? I don't care either way anymore. It's okay. There's a point where I was doing TTT because it was the most reliable. You only needed 2 people to do it right, rather than all 8 people in the stack, and then the healers had to do it right. So that's why I like TTT the most. But, and also, I knew that I wasn't ever going to fuck up the mitts, so that also helped a lot with the equation. Oh, and the rampart thing that I was teaching other tanks about. How if you pop rampart on like the 4th or 5th pulse before Ecliptic really starts up, you'll have it up for the tower and the final tower. Yeah. So TTD was good. But then there's a point where it's like, okay, I want to have good uptime during this final pop burst. And so it's hard to do that when you're popping so many mitts in such a short time, because you need to pop them. You can't pre-pop them except for ramp. You need to pop them at the last second in the tower to make it last. So you do kind of have to like triple weave if you want to make sure you don't wipe. So I did like the swap to PTT, but then pots changed to be at 5 minutes instead of 6, I think, or what was it before? 5:30.
It was 0. No. It was 0. It was 0.6, and then whatever, like 10 and change when the pot would come up.
Yes.
Now it's 5.
Yes.
People use 5
and
now.
So that shift makes it so the burst is not affected by it at all. So if we went back to TTT, I wouldn't care. But I started liking PTT. I was like, okay, I don't like how I can't have a good burst, so I like PTT now. But at this point, that's irrelevant, so I would not mind going back to TTT.
So just to cap that off, so you're probably thinking, hey, I'm through 2-fold. I'm through 4-fold. We're good. The towers are set. We made it. We're locked in.
Invols went off well. Tanks midded well for the final tower. Everything's looking good.
Hey, why is the boss at, like, 4% right now, and he's about to hop out of the last tower to enrage? Oh shit, we're dead. Okay, hey, that's 2%. Well, I'm sure someone somewhere
we had a death.
Do something.
We had some damage downs.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll work on it.
That's just the fight. That damage check is very tightly tuned. Now, with DPS now, you can get to a point where you are killing at the middle of the 3rd spin. No, I got, well, maybe second now. I got, my closest I got was third spin. Like he landed, spun once, and we killed. That's as quick as I got. So I'm sure if everybody had a weapon, everybody was like geared, it's probably 2. Which is crazy to think on re-clears. Like you still have to go through all of that on re-clears, by the way. It doesn't seem as bad now, but still, that's a thing. Anyway, that DPS check is not just because that someone had a death. That DPS check is just because that's the
Brutal.
DPS check.
Yep.
Yeah. It was tuned to be rough with like the gear that was available to us. And
The
that does
tombstone
not
gear,
change.
yep. And
Yep.
I will say, just the more I think about it and analyzed it, it truly was overtuned at that point in time. Because I looked at streamers. So we had a 0.04% in rage, 0.04 of a percent, which is literally something like 500 extra potency away from clearing, something like that. I'm not totally sure.
Yeah, I think it's like 70k damage.
That was the difference between clearing and not clearing. No deaths, no damage downs. Now, of course, you could say, oh, you probably did this unoptimal, that unoptimal. I looked at streamers, and they were having good pulls, and they were wiping too. And then their clears were barely clearing it as well. And I will say, these were statics that were funneling gear. Okay, our 0.04 did not have that gear. Okay, we had a few people with us together. There was like 5 of us together, and then 3 random people. But of the 8 of us, we had 1 earring and one bracelet, something like that, and nothing else.
Right, to be specific.
Yes, the gear 1 from M9 and M10. This is week 1. And so we were severely disadvantaged, and we got 0.04. Those streamers had fully set up gear, M9 and M10 gear funneled to the correct person, yada yada yada, and they still had a huge amount of trouble on that DPS check. So I like to point out, Misto, I don't think we ever talked about this, that puts us at a higher caliber than all those streamers that had a huge amount of trouble clearing. Because we got that 0.04 like day 4 or 5, something like that. Something I can't totally remember. And so the streamers...
You got it the Sunday, and I got it the Monday of week 1.
Oh, the clear, yeah. But the 0.04 was earlier, was before that.
Oh, yes. That was, you're correct. I'm sorry, I thought you meant the clear. Yeah.
And so I'm just saying that would have been a clear if we had gear. And it wouldn't even been close. We would have overkilled by like 1 or 2%. And so that's why I'm saying it was truly overtuned. We played better than those streaming statics, and I'm not just saying that to toot our own horns here. We objectively played better than that 0.04% clear. But because we didn't even get catastrophically unlucky. We could have had 0 accessories. We had 2. Okay? Whereas, just in comparison, those streamer statics had 4 accessories, boots, head, gloves, and a glaze funneled into their DPS. We had me a tank with an accessory and I believe a DPS with an accessory, and that's it on our 0.04%. And so that is why I declare officially that it was overtuned. Okay, and of course, you could probably look into and see if we played a little better, we would have cleared. I mean, literally, that's like 1 GCD difference. It's crazy, honestly. But I truly do believe it was objectively overtuned based off our experience of that 0.04% and looking at streamers with better gear still having tight enrages, which means that we played better than them on that pull. With no deaths, no damage downs, I think it was objectively overtuned. It was not built to be cleared in a PF scenario that has bad loot. And the clear that I cleared it the Sunday night, I believe, and the clear that I had, I did a Merc party for, and I just said, so the goal, I did a fancy party because I just wanted to have fun with it. I said 3 people I'm looking for. Also, we had Bob with us too, with my clear as well. So me and Bob made a PF that said looking for 2 non-clears and 4 people who have cleared, and that made an 8-person team that still got us a little bit of loot. And so I think I paid out 3 mil per the 4 non-clears, but no payout to the people well, so 3 mil to the 4 people who cleared, no payout to the non-clears, because they were like tag-alongs, essentially. And we cleared. And so that poll, we had 2 deaths and a damage down, and it wasn't even close. We killed at the start of this in Ragecast. And I looked it up, and we had 2 DPS that were hella juiced. They had Pants and Twine, and one of them had cleared M12 and had a weapon and stuff like that. And so they were juiced, and so it wasn't even close. And so it was not built, the damage check was not built around people who got unlucky and didn't have loot, which I could go on a tangent about how flawed the loot system is in this game. It's very toxic. So people complain about how inconvenient it is, but for me, I could just complain about how unbalanced it is. It's a severe balancing issue that someone who committed the crime of getting slightly more unlucky than other people will be punished so heavily. But that's for another time. There's no reason to go to that rabbit hole. But this was an example of that, because we were essentially a PF that did not get lucky with loot. We weren't a static that guaranteed all that loot, and it was not enough to clear. And we played better than teams that had full loot that also still didn't clear. Until they did eventually clear. But so yeah, that is my rant about it. Objectively was overtuned. All that combined, it was objectively an overtuned DPS check. Thoughts?
Right. I mean, between you and I think we got it. I think we're good.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just finish this up with M12. Now, unfortunately, there's only one picture. So for the time being, it's a picture of the Lindworm, of the Phase 1 Lindworm. So let's just do Phase 1 for now, and then we can get to Phase 2, because they're clearly 2 separate things, so it's silly to grade them together.
I'm going to be honest, much like besides, honestly, M4, M1 of this, or sorry, M12 P1, not to say.
No, nothing really
the biggest,
about.
like, I just think it's, like, the DPS check was kind of rough, because I did it on week 3. No, I did it week 2, and I cleared the whole thing week 2.
Yeah.
So I cleared that week 2, week 3 clear, complete. Oh yeah, we cleared it together. We cleared the first phase together. Yeah, I don't know. We didn't have any super juiced up things like everyone was, I'm assuming, like trying to clear it with us, you know? So nothing was that different. And that DPS check was not that bad. Everyone was like hyping that up to be like this monumental, like, here you go,
yeah,
you better be ready.
Because Lucrezia, I think, I never watched it, but Lucrezia had a poll. I guess the poll they cleared on was very tight, and so people assumed, like, oh, they're so god tier, so they have trouble. But I think strats hadn't been ironed out yet that optimized DPS, and they didn't have, like, their best poll. And so people saw their work first clear and assumed, oh my god, this DPS check is excellent.
So, I want to be, I'm going to pull up, like, the prog time for this again, right? So, for heavyweight, my Tyrant, I had the longest. For some reason, it's not. But I went into heavyweight, and then I'm like, okay, let's find out. After clearing it, I was wondering how long this took overall. And in general, first of all, looking at the Tyrant, that is my longest prog time of any fight. Yeah. 23 hours is how long that took me. The second longest on there was the 21, I think, from Howling Blade, I said, to clear. So, I think this is the toughest. Yeah. I do think this is probably the toughest. I still think this is probably the toughest one.
Yes, and I agree, but it's partially artificial because of that DPS check.
Yeah.
Like, Howling Blade, if you made Howling Blade's DPS check tough, well then, now Beck and Moonlight can make no mistakes, and there's always going to be something that's Beck and stuff like that. So, there's a lot of fights where if you make the DPS check fight, those mechanics that you kind of forgot about because, oh, people got a damage down, but who cares, and moved on. Even Sugar Riot, there's always a few deaths after ads. If you made DPS check for Sugar Riot tough, you have to do ads perfectly inherently, and then you have to do the other parts perfectly as well, and you can't save tank LB. Because, you know, in M11, if you had to do tank LB or healer LB to save something, you were not clearing, because you needed that melee LB3 to clear.
Yep.
So the same with Sugar Riot, we use tank LB3 to cheese a mechanic, you would not be allowed to do that. So I'm just saying, DPS check changes things more than you might first think. But I still agree that, yes, it is literally the hardest fight. I will definitely say that because of the DPS check.
Now, you heard my Tyrant clear time. My Red Hot, I think it was like 11 hours. Let me double check.
Okay.
Yeah, 11 hours. My Vamp Fatale, 4 hours. That makes sense, right? My Lindworm 1 took me 6 hours.
Okay.
Like, that's the difference, like the variance in difficulty that I felt through this. My Lindworm 2, 3 hours.
Yep.
I will do shout out to Lindworm 2 here. On my clear, I had enough for loot for people that I think it was 2 people needed had cleared already, and there were the remainder 6. They needed the clear still, so we had 2 helpers.
Mm-hmm.
That pull that we did that I cleared, we did like 3-4 pulls in P2, and we got it. Shout out to my luck on this one. I had the monk weapons drop, and I'm on monk, so I felt like just so happy from there. It was awesome. But yeah, 3 hours on Lindworm 2, 6 on Lindworm 1. Only thing I really want to say on Lindworm, but if you've done it, it's definitely different than obviously normal, but it's like kind of just amping up the things that you were doing anyway, besides the coil, which is just looper from top. And I think it's actually a better done looper, in all honesty. Like, I think
it's a less hectic looper, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's like, it's a blessing to actually be in the snake, because it allows you to, like, contextualize where to go in that instance, right? And it kind of makes it easier to, like, helps you understand when to split. It's kind of brilliantly well done, because it helps you know where to move, to break and split, and it also helps you, like, identify where the outside tower you're supposed to soak after is supposed to be a little bit. Like, you just know, like, okay, now I gotta go to the outside one I'm not supposed to stay in. Like, it just helps players know, whether intentionally or not, it does it well. That being said, I don't really like the ending of this, because it
Triple
ends
slaughter
up being...
shed.
Yeah, I just like... I don't know, it's just like a mechanic. Oh, you know what I just realized we didn't do? I didn't give you my Tyrant placement.
Oh, you're right. Wait.
Yeah. I don't think we did.
I had it between either B or C. I wasn't sure.
I think it's a low B. Low B for me, because
yeah,
I agree
that's
with
actually
you, like,
already where it was. So nice.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. So that's just from everything we talked about. That's just where I'm at, and just there's just so much.
I enjoyed progging Tyrant, but the DPS check was brutal, and PF had a lot of issues. But that being said, even though it was more punishing than extremes, it still felt satisfying to prog each mechanic. So I guess we didn't really cover that. But yeah.
Now, getting back to Lindworm 1, just from everything I said, I thought it was generally fine. I just still place it B to prog. Like, it just was like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't have issues.
I would place it higher. It was fun to learn each mechanic.
You know what? You're right. It's low A just because of everything.
Because remember, this isn't about favorite fight. This is about how much did PF make it hurt? Not very much. And how much was it fun to learn each mechanic? It was fun, but then the triple slaughter shed makes it take a hit for sure. But like, it was more fun than Black Cat, I'd say. Right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah. Wherever above Black Cat is, that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Now, P2, on the other hand,
I think that's
an easy S.
Yes, I was just gonna say the same thing.
Because
like
it threaded the needle of just every mechanic was fun to learn and resolve, and I guess people kind of lock in more. Like you weren't seeing wipe after wipe after wipe. Like you were seeing, at least for me, I was seeing prog, and it was like the Rep 2 party. We saw Rep 2, I learned it. Then I joined Rep 1, and then the Rep 2 party, we learned it. I skipped the Blood Mana party and just joined an Idealic because, like, oh, this mechanic seems pretty easy, and I was correct. Joined Idyllic, and after that first Idyllic party, I basically had it. I felt like I had it all down. I joined another Idyllic, saw through to the end, saw Enrage, and then finally one more party after that. I was done. And every mechanic was very fun to learn. Idyllic was an incredible mechanic to learn. Just progging Idyllic was just so hype, honestly. And, like, because it's such a long mechanic, there's so many different parts to progging it. Like, oh, you saw to here, then you saw towers. Oh, I think I have towers down. Oh, I remember my stack and spread stuff. I have that down. Perfect. And then cleared. I feel like I cleared it faster than Extreme. I'd be surprised if I spent more time than Extreme.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way you didn't for sure. Like, that's crazy. Extreme was just such... It's weird because, I mean, you took 4 hours for Lindworm 2. Just to give you an example. So there's no way that your Red Hot was hot. Yeah, you had 7.3 for Red Hot for you. So like, it's just, there's just no way that like that fight stuff. And here's the thing. I think that's my favorite P2 ever made. Like on the door parts.
Yeah, I can think about
because
people say Kefka a lot. I like Kefka, but not as impressive.
That's my second. It's second to me. But yeah, like when you go through it, I don't have any issues when it comes towards like, you're right, the PF experience, learning any, like Idyllic, I understand like not having a raid plan and going through that, right? I'm like, I completely understand like how crazy that feels. But if you do it, it is just in essence.
There's so much clicking.
Yes, it is in essence. You're just determining if it's defamation or stacks first, and then you have to make sure. Obviously, you got to go north south.
Yeah, determine your role and like, execute your role.
Yep. And then you're just like, okay, you just go to your sides after that. Then you just resolve stacks or defamations based on where you're at, and your macro tells you.
And that is 100% an ultimate mechanic. If you can do that mechanic, you should be doing ultimates. Just in case someone needed that push.
If it's not like, if like devs don't consider an ultimate, that's crazy to me. But like, I can see an argument to being like this borderline thing where it is and isn't. But like, think at that point, if you're a borderline, just call it, like you're just doing it. Like that is like a P3 mechanic in an ultimate, you know? Like, that is like okay, so we're here. Like, maybe not all of it, of course, but like just Idyllic.
Idyllic itself,
what's happening. Yep,
Idyllic, the phase of the ultimate starts, and then Idyllic kicks in. And then by the end of Idyllic, that final Idyllic, the second Idyllic cast, it would be the Enrage of the phase.
Yep, 100%. And maybe that could be like even the final one before you go to the final transition of the boss, you know? Like, I could see that too. But yeah,
give it 4 years.
Yeah, in 4 years we'll see Idyllic, and it's gonna be that.
It's literally gonna be that.
Ooh, that would be cool if they did like a DSR thing with it, where it's like you're kind of rewriting the memory of Lindworm, like you're trying to help.
If they actually wanted to go crazy, because you know how Idyllic is a mechanic within a mechanic, why not do a phase within a phase? So phase 3 starts, he casts Idyllic Dream, and then in the middle of that phase, there's you know, it's the same as an idea like where you're communicating a bunch of information and then you resolve it near the end of the mechanic. But in the middle, you do a separate mechanic that you resolve instead. The phase starts, Idyllic starts, and then another boss comes in, and you do that whole boss's phase that has a little bit connected from that first part. But then when you beat that boss goes away, and then the next boss comes in, and you have to use the thing communicated in the first part of Idyllic in that boss. Give it 4 years.
They just stole it. They stole the idea right here. If that happens, Square Enix, you owe us money. Yeah. Overall, I mean, Idyllic's the highlight. The mechanics aren't tough once you get it. Like, once you get it, you see it, you're good.
It's the perfect example of a fun to prog. It is so fun to learn each mechanic. And everyone, at that point, everyone was locked in and was good. Everyone else was stuck on Tyrant. I mean, that's the reality. Everyone else was stuck on Extremes, honestly. Let's be honest here. People were stuck on
first
Water Fire.
People were stuck on... Yeah, people were stuck on Extremes week 2 reclears. Like, Anyway, I think we're good. Like, I like the list. I think for me, just to cap this off, I think that for this one, my favorite like tier 2 prog, it might have been the first tier. Like, I feel like it's because it's fresh, it's new, and like the mechanics. But I would say like fulfilling wise, it's probably heavyweight.
It's tough because for me, cruiserweight has Sugar Riot and Dancing Green, which was both really, really fun and up there. And Howling Blade was great, but then Abominator was F. So it's tough. That evens out like those three.
I think I got
hitters.
an idea. I got an idea. The best first one to do is Black Cat, like to prog through. Okay. The second one would probably be Sugar Riot for me. Okay. The third, it's between Bomber or Tyrant. It's probably it's gotta be Bomber, right? I was gonna say it feels like Tyrant.
Tyrant's more fun to
I just can't get over the feeling.
No.
But I just can't. I just thinking like
with Brute Bomber, the only thing was Fuse Field and base Fuse Field and a little bit of Chain 2. No tight DPS check, no arena split nonsense, no snatching defeat from the jaws of victory with Ecliptic.
Yeah. And then but the final one would probably be M12, like the actual last part.
Oh, M12 easy.
Yeah.
So for me, like, Dancing, it's tough to not have Dancing Green, but I know Dancing Green, not for you, so.
Yeah.
So.
All right, cool. What else you got? I think that's it for the prog section.
No, that was good. Our final list, we made our first F tier, so that was exciting.
Yeah, there's some shout out to F, the old abomination.
We're not going to be using
abomination of a prog
going forward. That's for sure.
No, there's even as though it's shit. There's still not an F fight in this, and that's so great because I can name like 2 F fights in Endwalker just off the top.
I guess we could reuse F if we do a hardest to easiest. If you want to communicate how easy something is, we could use that.
I think we can make some adjustments for it. Stay tuned. We'll make some adjustments. So we'll see you for the next one. For our final one, we'll talk about what our favorite one is. So see you for that.